Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to another dose of Thursday Night Thrills, courtesy, of course, of the iRacing Creator Series. We've survived the absolute madness of the cross-cut carnage just 7 days ago, and tonight we are back into our chaotic multi-class routes for Season 3. We do, though, stay in Japan for the second half of our Eastern double-header, but the challenge could not be more different tonight. From the endlessly long main straights of the Fuji International Speedway, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? To the tight and sweeping corners, the technical challenge of Okayama that will present itself to the drivers tonight for round number 5. It's going to be a fascinating dynamic. I am sure traffic going to be a big part. Overtaking is going to be difficult. I think we could be in for a barnstormer, as we have been for the first 4, plus the special event rounds we have had so far. And once again, commandeering Commentary Corner, it is myself, Tom Wigson. Alongside me, as he always is, it is the legendary John Harris. How are you doing?
Doing okay. Yeah, it's been a fantastic season so far, and I couldn't wait for tonight to have another fantastic event on a Japanese track. They always deliver in terms of spectacle and in terms of innovative overtaking places. Okayama, a very difficult track, I'd say, to master. Some quite fast-flowing corners, but they all sort of interlock, so if you get one wrong, you're going to get a load of others wrong. Overtaking also difficult in the multi-class series that we have, and we've seen in the past it can make the difference in the race at the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be incredibly complex.
Most definitely. And like you said, we've got a real mix of corner types, the track configuration really interesting, those high-speed sweeps, heavy braking zones as well that drivers need to be careful of. The closing speeds could be pretty interesting to sink our teeth into as well. First of all, just to get through the admin before we kickstart things, let's have a look at the menu for the rest of the season, where we've been and where we'll be heading in the next few weeks, because we did kickstart with a very interesting American triple header. It was a great way to kickstart the season. It's already in the rearview mirror, though, and tonight we're also closing the chapter, the Japanese chapter, this double header following the spectacular detours into the cross-cut carnage from 7 days ago. Okayama tonight after Fuji 2 weeks ago, and then we will be returning stateside, of course, for the American Swing, Daytona Road, Sebring, Talladega, and Miami. Long Beach endurance layout, need to make that clear, for our second super special event. But we finished where we began in the iRacing Creator Series, Monza Historic. John, I think what we need to talk about is, as this season has progressed, I think we've definitely seen an improvement in driving standards when it comes to the multi-class racing. It was a little bit chaotic, wasn't it, in Road America? We were seeing a lot of mistakes, the GR86s in particular being pinballed around all over the place. Things just seem to have calmed down a little bit, and it's almost like the drivers have really just acclimatized and become acquainted into the surroundings.
That has to be the biggest jinx that I've ever heard from a commentator there.
That was partly why I said it.
You're quite right, and I'm glad that I'm not the one that said it, because usually when I say it, it goes terribly wrong. So I'm glad you're taking that one, Tom, on your head, as they say. It's true, though. I think it's taken the drivers quite a few events to get on top of exactly how fast the closing speed is, especially with the Indy cars. So I think people are getting more used to their own car as well, so they're better at looking in the mirrors or paying attention to their spotter, and that makes a huge difference in my opinion. Also to note, and I've said this before in the season, we're going from tighter tracks with less top speed in them to some sort of the faster tracks, maybe even some ovals, as you can see later on round 8, for example. And that means that drivers sometimes have a bit more time to pay attention to what is around them as well. And so you have that sort of double whammy of better driving skills because they've got used to it, and also tracks being a bit less complex, although Okayama might be the last one to challenge them in that extent, let's say. So it's going to be interesting, but I mean, we've still got so many great rounds to go. I think drivers can't put their foot off the gas, as they say.
Definitely can't take the metaphorical and the physical foot off the gas. We're going to move from the calendar to the championship standings, though, because things are shaping up really, really interesting, especially at the sharp end. You look at it there, Hayden Gullis and Suelio Almeida with a lead, but it's a narrow one. Just 16 points covering the top 5, just 26 points covering the top 7, 27 points covering the top 8. And as we've seen so many times this season, John, things can flip-flop, things can change very, very quickly. One bad weekend and you're tumbling down that table, and vice versa. If you have a stormer, you're jumping 3, 4, maybe even 5 places in the standings.
Well, that's exactly what happens to the top 5, isn't it? Even the top 6, really, because they've just been accumulating points, some of them, and then last time out in Fuji, everything went wrong, and so the points went out of the window, and where Hayden Gillis and Suelio had a big lead, now it's whittled down to basically nothing, so it's all to play for, and that's why they've got to go really, really aggressive in this one, I think. Just get the metaphorical second half of the season off to a great start, and hopefully out of the walls, as they say, because we've had a lot of times, for example, with Ancephalosis, where Reska Kyoso or Ancephalosis have won or had a great points haul, and the other driver has had some sort of incident. So it's all about the consistency of 2 drivers, and so far, nobody has mastered that or got lucky enough to get double points. So we'll have to wait and see, but that marks the day, doesn't it, for a great championship battle in the end of the season.
And there was a superb opportunity, wasn't there, last week, for somebody to try and grab this title battle by the scruff of the neck. Suelio Almeida was absent. Hayden Gullis had a bit of a stinker, got involved in a few incidents, finished a little bit down the order. Brendan Hyperstar, once again, in the IndyCar class that was a class above, was so strong, so consistent out there, looked absolutely bulletproof, steadfast in the lead of the race. And in the GT3s, well, we saw Aidan Polt returning to his perch. He lost it a few weeks ago. He got back up into first place as he started the season off with a hat-trick of victories. Round 4, he was usurped by Suelio Almeida, but with Almeida absent, there was the turn for Polt to jump back into the hot seat and take that. But with Super Noodle Bagel still having some technical issues, and Super Noodle Bagel, we should say, isn't here this evening, there's still an opportunity, because they're only 20-odd points off the top of the timing charts, to really make a late surge at this. Aidan Polt, we see there, I think that's Alex Gillen backwards, along with one of the Ferraris, Josh's corner facing the wrong way. Probably a bit of a tete-a-tete already going on there. But for Aidan Polt's championship charge, there's still opportunities that can present itself because he's so consistent.
Yeah, that is the thing, is you have to be scoring points all the time. And for people like Aidan Poll, for example, they've got a weight ballast now in place for the entire season, along with Suelio Almeida, to sort of equalize their performance as much as possible. And the problem is that the cars or the pack is so condensed together within a couple of tenths of a second a lap that if you make a mistake, you're losing multiple positions. And so you've got to also look out for your teammate as well on track. They're in a different class. If you can help them in any way, it's not illegal to maybe just park it on the apex on one corner to help out your teammate in some way. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot of drivers thinking about that, but we'll have to wait and see. It's all a game of, as you can see in practice, it's a game of keeping it on track, it appears.
And I think with one of the cars currently on screen, the GR86s, we need to have a discussion, don't we? Because things have just calmed down a little bit in the last few weeks with these GR86s. Remember the season opener, that 3-wide sprint up the hill at Road America to decide the first winner of the GR86 class. Of course, the community entries into this, they don't go towards the championship tally, but they've been such fun to watch. The battling has been superb. We return to a circuit that is tighter, that is twistier, more technical, and the closing speeds could be pretty dramatic. You can see there the Porsche just trying to work their way past Reese in the GR86. Are we going to maybe be expecting a return to the traditional carnage of these GR86s where they will feel a little bit more like moving chicanes?
Well, see, the thing is, they've got technically, I mean, they'll probably make their own championship anyway, but technically they've got no championship to fight for, so that means every single race is 110%. You just want that victory, and that's the end of that for the community spirit. And so what that means is they are going probably 3 wide every single corner if they could. So I think it's a case of they drive their own race. It's for the faster car to overtake cleanly as normal. So if they get caught up behind, that's their problem. If they get taken out because of a faster car, that's just unlucky. So I think they're just having the time of their lives, and I respect them for it, because at the end of the day, they are racing the doors off of these cars, and it's so entertaining to watch every single corner.
Couldn't agree more, couldn't agree more. So exciting. The battling we've seen, 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide at certain points as well. I think we could be seeing more of the same. You can see their closing speed there, in particular for the IndyCars. Josh Merrin stepping in back into the hot seat this evening as well in those IndyCars. He's definitely going to be a dark horse. Has had some really strong pace throughout the season in the appearances that he has made. If you are new to the iRacing Creator Series, first of all, welcome in. Make yourself comfortable, because this could be a very exciting one to get our teeth stuck into this evening. 3 car classes taken to the track, as we see. I think that's the Mercedes of Ancephalosis.
Storm Molina.
Of Storm Molina, licensed to thrill. That was a bit of a thriller there. Spinning, almost trying to get out or back into the pit lane over the catch fencing. But we have Indy cars on the circuit, we have GT3 cars on the circuit, and we have GR86s on the circuit as well. And one of those GT3 drivers has jumped into the commentary booth with us. Although, yes, Josh Corner is back. Josh, hello, how are you doing? First and foremost,
hey, how you doing?
Start. We've just seen you a few moments ago, backwards in a bit of a skirmish with Alex Gillen. What are you expecting the racing to be like this evening?
Well, I mean, it's Okayama. It's a short track. It's a narrow track, and it's quite a blind track in a lot of places. Turns 6 and 7 is pretty much blind as you come around it if there's the slower cars in front. So I think it's going to be quite hectic. I think there's a lot of people that think it's going to be quite hectic tonight. Yeah, it should be fun though.
We've got some fast-flowing corners. Is that going to change anything with the overtaking? Because quite a few of the tracks that we've had have been sort of like 90-degree apexes and all of that. This one, if you want to overtake a slower car, you have to go around the outside, and you have to worry about the Indy cars overtaking, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the main places for overtake tonight will be people out braking each other into the hairpin at turn 5, and then that outside line becomes the inside of turn 6, or you can try and defend if it's the other way around. So. Yeah, who knows? I got into a bit of a spat with Alex because I just wasn't paying attention. I was talking and warming my tyres up. So, Alex, I apologise for that. But yeah, I think there's going to be, I don't know. I think there's going to be limited overtaking opportunities here, really, because of how narrow it is. Apart from the back straight, I don't know how strong the slipstream's going to be with the GRs and what have you. I think you're going to see a lot of bump drafting from them, but only time will tell. I don't know.
So do you think this could be a little bit more of a patience kind of game that we're seeing, just trying to keep your nose clean for the majority of it, trying to, think about the last 10 minutes of the race more than the first 10 minutes of the race?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Especially for me. I think for me, it's just a game of survival. I got very lucky in a way last week. It was my first ever Creator Series podium at Fuji, but I feel less confident here, I think, especially in the Ferrari. It takes at least 3 laps to get the tyres warm in that car. Turns 9 is probably where most likely people are going to spin if the rears aren't warm enough. Turn 9 because it's a banked right-hander. I've seen a lot of people spin in there. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I'm going to try and keep my nose clean and yeah, come out with a good result. A top 5 result would be amazing for me. I would be very happy with that, but we'll have to see.
I wanted to ask then, going along the lines of what you answered, how difficult is it with, for example, the tires? Because on this track, you're constantly cornering, especially through the second sector. So is it more difficult than other tracks, and do you have to pay attention to that?
Yeah, I would say from sector 2 onwards, you really have to pay attention. It's very easy to spin under colds at turn 6. Less so with turn 7, and really easy to spin on turn 9. I don't know about the other GT3s, but the Ferrari, it's taken me at least 3 laps. I heard Chesnoy say that he was the same in the McLaren. It's taking him about at least 3 laps to get all 4 tyres up to temp. So only time will tell. I think a few people are going to be caught out in the first few laps. Those who have patience and those that know how to handle the car to begin with and just take it easy will probably come out clean and maybe make up some places. It depends how impatient people are.
Well, fingers crossed. It makes for a very exciting race. Thank you for jumping in with us, Josh. We wish you the best of luck at trying to repeat those podium heroics from a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
See you in a little bit. Well, we've heard from the perspective of one of the GT3 drivers. I think we should now have a bit of a chat with one of our IndyCar veterans who's going to jump in just a moment. Ryan Lady 3 is in the building once again. Ryan, hopefully you're doing well. Okayama, it's a very different circuit to what we had a few weeks ago in Fuji. What are the main technical challenges that you guys are experiencing in these IndyCars that you're trying to get acquainted to?
Firstly, hello to you and John and Gareth in the background on Director's Booth. It'll be interesting. I've not raced in a few weeks, so I had a few technical issues with the PC with a new one. So it's not really, I've not had time to learn this track. It's more getting stuff set up again from my old PC. So I know overtaking is going to be extremely difficult here, apart from the long 2 straights we have here, the main straight and the back straight. So I think a lot of the Indy cars will try and make the moves before the end of the straights, and with the forecast we've seen, it opens the door to unpredictability tonight. So overtaking will be difficult, but the weather's going to be a big part tonight.
Wonder if you could do this for Ryan. Could you take us for a lap and commentate the lap?
I can do. So coming into turn 1, second gear, I think you could take it third, but again, still learning this track. Turn 2, bit of a mystery one, this one. It's gone a little bit too wide there onto the gravel on the right-hand side. Using a bit of the hybrid boost, which is in the IndyCar, about 30%. Then just at the 50-meter board, we want to turn into this really tight hairpin, which opens up on exit onto the back straight. Push to pass will be enabled here for overtaking, but for me, it's going to be hybrid boosting. And then braking zone's going to be just after the 100-meter board, but there's the little tower on the left-hand side you could use as a reference point. Got to be so careful in this section. We've got a Toyota ahead of us, but throttle input's going to be key in these two left-handers, because second you'll be safe, but there's not much traction. And then coming into the final couple of corners, it's a hairpin. We've got the Unsafety car, who's trying
Being
to
very unsafe.
Of course, being unsafe right now. And I think I might have done him there. Oh, maybe not. So, get away! So those two corners are probably difficult ones, as the Unsafety car just tried to take me out there, but failed miserably. But I've got some front wing damage apparently, so that last corner is a good indicator as well. You've got to brake a bit early, then take a lot of entry speed to get a good exit and try and get an overtake down the main straight. So that's a lap. Unfortunately, the Unsafety car had to come in and make things a little bit interesting at the end there, but
I think that made it even better, to be fair. It looked like the car was very sort of nervous in some of the corners. Is it that feeling behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, the setup we've got, obviously all the cars are fixed setups. This one's interesting. It's a high downforce setup, but the weather conditions at the minute, the track temp's quite high. So it's like Le Mans a couple of seasons ago, where the alternates don't seem to be good after, as I've just locked up there. I will see people on alternates pit early off them because I think the tyres overheat. But on the flip side, the primary tyre, at the minute, from what I can see, the temperatures are quite low, so it's very cold. So the warm-up's going to be interesting for the primaries, but the alternates will heat up quicker, of course, but they will wear very quickly with the high temps that we're probably going to experience in the first sector around here. So it's going to be interesting for tyre wear.
And if we're looking at the multi-class aspect of it, where are the main opportunities to try and sneak past the GT3s and the GR86s? Is it going to be a case of, like you said, just having to be really patient and just go for it on those main straights, or are there areas where you can be a little bit creative with it?
Obviously here, for example, as the Unsafety car fails again to get me. I think maybe turn one here as well. So we've got this GR86, we've got the exit speed. I feel sorry for Brendan Hyperstars, unfortunately. That is not the way to overtake a GR86. But you've got that. You've got this corner coming up as well. You can maybe go for a late send. But the last sector is going to be very interesting with overtaking. So you may see some interesting lines from us Indy cars and even the GT3s when they're trying to get past the GR86s. So should be interesting.
Fingers crossed. It very much is. Well, thank you for chatting with us, Ryan, and we wish you the best of luck for what should be a very exciting outing.
Thank you, chaps.
Well, there we are. One of the veterans in the business taking us through a very interesting lap. Also some acquainting, let's say, with the Unsafety car. And I think the technical aspect that he was discussing there, Ryan, is going to be absolutely crucial. It almost feels like a lap of two halves, isn't it? The first half really nice and flowing. Then that second half in the Indy cars, it's going to be the rear that's feeling really nervous through turn 6, 7, 8, 9 as well with the off-camber corners. In the GT3s, the front end is going to be a little bit reluctant to try and get in there, a little bit recalcitrant. You're going to be struggling with the understeer. You're going to be wrestling with that car, especially, John, when those tyre temperatures, like we discussed, are going to be starting to skyrocket.
I mean, you could see on boards that he's just turning the wheel all the time, is Ryan in that IndyCar. Now, maybe in the GT3s and the GR86s, then you've got a bit more time on the straights to cool the tyres, but by lap 3 or 4, it's really going to be a case of the tyres cooking themselves. And so I think that's what Ryan was referencing, is that in the current state of temperature of the track, you'll have to probably go for a harder compound tyre if you can, or just manage the tyres if you can't. And I think this is going to be a race of two halves, trying to fight for position at the start, really trying to get yourself up the order so you don't have to fight through afterwards. Or if you can't do that, just sit back, hope for chaos, and then just save the tyres effectively. But this is going to be really technical. And it'll be interesting to see who masters the strategy of doing what Ryan said, taking an unusual line to get an overtake done and lose the least amount of time possible. I think it's going to be all about that today.
Interesting stuff. And we haven't mentioned the fuel burn as well, because that's been a very critical aspect in the races we've seen so far this season, in particular in the IndyCar class. We've seen a lot of splash and dashes late in the last 5 or so laps of the race. How are we looking from a fuel burn perspective? Is this a circuit, John, where it's easy to save fuel, easy to just sort of back it off and maybe be a little bit conservative in patches to make sure you can just extend that stint and give yourself a little bit more flexibility compared to your rivals?
There's a lot of fast-flowing corners, so yes, fuel saving should be possible. But that all depends as well on overtaking, because if you need to put the pedal to the metal to overtake, say, a GR86, then you're not going to fuel save. I think there's going to be a lot of, as Ryan said, bump drafting and strategies in play just to keep yourself in the race. So I think it's something to watch out for. And interesting that we see a different tyre strategy here with, I think that's Josh Merrin on the softer compound tyre. So from what I understand, they will set the grid just by doing a few laps behind the Unsafety car, just to sort out a few misgridding options here. And yeah, that way we'll get racing and we'll have the proper grid starting in reverse order. So theoretically, the pace should be the faster cars at the back of their respective grids.
Riding on board with it's Des, who's been a real character so far. Really enjoyed watching Des so far this season. We're speaking last week, or 2 weeks ago I should say, about how he's still yet to get through the opening lap without contact. He managed it in Fuji a couple of weeks ago, but then lasted only a couple more laps. He was caught up in an instant in that GT3 class. It is so difficult to try and keep your nose clean, especially when you're catching those GR86s, which, like we've said a number of times, are going to be battling very, very hard because they've got nothing to fight for, nothing on the table. It is hell for leather. Gloves are well and truly off.
Yeah, indeed. It's literally just fighting for glory for your respective community. That's the way the GR86s work, and also to cause a little bit of chaos, which they have done just by being moving targets, apparently. The GT3 cars are especially fond of that, and I tell you what, the Indy cars, as fragile as they have been used to punting those off of the track as well. So it'll be interesting to see, and I think it will literally be just a case of some of the corners are unsighted or have an elevation change in them, so you have to just pay attention and not let your eye off the prize, because in the Indy cars especially, you lose that front wing around here, you're going to lose multiple seconds a lap, if not worse.
Welcome in, everybody. You are just joining us. We're waiting for the gridding process. Couple of formation laps before we set the grid to get going for what should be a 47-lap charge around the tight, twisty, technical turns of the Okayama circuit. Asking if Aidan Pohl and Sueli Almeida are back. Both of them are featuring tonight. Sueli Almeida back after a week away in Fuji. So the last time we saw Almeida was, of course, that victory a few weeks ago at the Indy Road Course. We'll be looking to try and complete the double. I'm hearing that we might not have Sueli Almeida. I saw him on the check-in list, and now we're looking, and maybe he's not here. So he's vanished once again without us knowing, which is disappointing.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, Tito, but I did see on the list there that he's currently not racing. So unless he jumps in the car real quick and catches up, then he might have a few problems. But yeah, unfortunate. But Aidan Pohl still has that 15 kilogram ballast in the car as well to keep things interesting. So he's in the Corvette, if I remember correctly. They did a swap of cars. He may actually be in the Porsche now that I remember correctly. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think Sueli will be disappointed to not race if there's some sort of issue on his end, so because the battles that we've seen between them have been absolutely thrilling. Side-by-side action, swapping of fastest laps, swapping of race strategies, sometimes just copying each other, trying to play cat and mouse all the time. And you could see him really amping himself up there in the simulator.
100%. We do have a couple of other reservists stepping in. Solstice, as we've already mentioned, in for Punji, who is absent this week. Season 2 iRacing Creator Series champ Sparks being replaced by Smiler Ball. Lithium Fox in for Super Noodle Bagel, and Josh Merrin as well returning in place of Aerotech. We've seen a number of times Josh Merrin so far this season is absolutely rapid, can sometimes just be a bit of a magnet, for instance, but when he keeps it clean, my word, is he a contender right at the sharp end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could say that about a lot of people on this grid, to be fair. But yeah, Josh Merrin has really had some unfortunate incidents, really. Had the pace multiple times and it's just not clicked at the majority of circuits. So this will definitely be one where he probably targets it and goes, right, second half of the season, let's reset, let's go again. Good to see Solstice back on the grid, by the way. We just were on board with them as well. And they've showed, again, great pace, good consistency as well. And I think last time out they were taken out by a GT3 car. So it just proves that even if you're trying to play it safe, it sometimes doesn't happen that way.
Hayden Gullis, we're just living in Gullis's world, aren't we? Let's just be honest. Overtaking the unsafety car, just cruising out in front. He has become the unsafety car as he's taken it upon himself to take over that track position over everybody else. What's he up to? Well, we never know. And I think Alex Gillen's going to join him here for some formation between the old rivals. Gullis and Gillen there, just stopping on circuit. Very, very close to a bit of contact. I wonder if that was a bit of a brake check there from Alex Gillen, just to say, I'm here, mate, just to let you know there. I'm sure they're going to be getting intertangled and entwined with each other at some stage throughout the race.
I'm 100% convinced that was to try and break his front wing right there. Just pull out in front of him and just break, like, right on the anchors. The car even locked up for Alex, so I'm sure he was stamping on that brake pedal. I mean, Hayden's done quite a few interesting strategies. Some have worked better than others. I mean, you have to remember back, I think it was at Laguna Seca, if I remember correctly, where he went into the pit lane to try and overtake the unsafety car and then spun out on the exit into the wall. That's going from 100 aura to negative, I think, 1,000,000 aura right there. And I'm not sure he's ever going to recover from that, but I'm going to point it out once again.
If Hayden Gullis was going to recover from anything, it would have happened by now. Let's be honest. Strategy-wise, just for these IndyCars in particular, we were talking about the alternate tyre as well. Love 46, Josh Merrin, Lithium Fox and Solstice, all on the red striped softer rubber. It's going to be interesting to see how those tyres deal with the temperatures and the loads that they're going to be put through, the front and the rear tyres in particular. But this is the lap, everybody, that the unsafety car will jump into the pit road, and we will begin our 47 lap charge. Our multi-class carnage can kickstart once again, but as we so often see, the unsafety car, John, is going to try and make their way outside the confines of the race circuit.
Yeah, we're about to see a unsafety car space program right now. Oh, it's good. It's almost Olympic quality in the pole vault there, but sadly, it's left to quite a few bruises, I think.
We've vaulted expertly the barrier there and ended up on the complete other side of the circuit. So with the unsafety car out of the way, we will be leading the charge down to the first braking zone with the IndyCars at the forefront. Zayla and Love 46, first and second in the queue, with Gullis and Gillen sat just behind. Expect drama, everybody. How quickly can Aidan Pohl fight his way through the GT3 traffic as well? When will we catch and try and claim the victims, the GR86s? We'll have to wait and see, everybody. I hope you're ready. We round the final corner and we wait to see when we punch it out of it. And we are going to be racing with Love 46 getting caught short there at the start, caught napping left on the starting block. Zayla already comfortable, looking down the inside. I think that was Josh Merrin, very aggressive. Big crash at the back with the GT3 cars. There are a couple of drivers thrown into the barrier before they'd even cut the beam to start the official race. Still Zayla leading the charge, Gullis losing places. Alex Gillen, I think, has just held on to third place. Here are the GT3s. There's definitely not all of them there, though.
Joshima's was spun round, and I think that's Stroopwafel as well involved in the mix. So unfortunate happening there. I think it was just a tag on the exit of the last corner, literally on the start approach to going green. Here we have the GR86s starting quite a way back, and so they'll get caught pretty quickly, but it's a nice lead there into turn one. Everybody taking it clean there, and you can see the understeeringness of these cars around here. They're not going to be easy to drive, and you can see Zella already trying to get away, but Ryan will be right there saying, no, this is my chance. I've got no more technical issues. I'm going for the win on this one.
Superb start. Ryan 83 made up a lot of places. This is Josh Merrin. Boatload of understeer there. Driving with the front of the car. Did not want to bite at all through turn 9.
Whoa.
Now to pull this up but round in front. I believe that's Hayden Gullis going for a bit of a slide. No, it's Reska Kyozo wide as well. There is Hayden Gullis making a mistake. That is 2 freebies handed straight onto the plate of Josh Merrin. From 6th up to 4th, spinning goes the Porsche in the background. That is Aidan Pohl, your favourite, dropping to the back of the GT3 class.
Incredible scenes. I think just caught out in the braking zone. essentially. Maybe a slight tap to get the weight of the car to rotate like that. Let's see if we can have a replay. So just following at the moment. Oh, a late dive on Josh's corner. I'm sorry. That was a day late and $1 short, in my opinion, on that move.
Agreed. Master of his own downfall. I have to say, Josh's corner, very, very lucky to still be pointing in the right direction. You can see how big a whack the Ferrari got from the Porsche, sending it down the inside. And Josh's corner, I think, will be taking out a lottery ticket because he should be pointing in the wrong direction and should be back, buried in the pack with Aidan Poll. Back to the front of the IndyCar charge. Alex Gillen's just fallen away from this leading duo ever so slightly. And Zayla under the microscope already. Ryan Lady 3 looking to make his intentions clear. Grand Poubert dropping backwards. Ancephalosis in the Mercedes as well, losing places from 3rd down to 6th in the GT3s. Make that 7th. Must have been a bit of a drama out there somewhere for the 43 car as we round the final corner. Zayla with about half a second in hand over Ryan as we cut the beam.
You can see how many cars are already going into the gravel. This is a very old school track. We didn't mention it in the warm-up periods, and that means that if you make a mistake like Reska Kyoso and Hayden Gullis, it costs you dearly. Ancephalosis has been in the wars there. You can see him car 43 as Aidan Poll goes all the way down the inside of Grand Poubert. That made it look easy. Last of the late breakers, he's always very aggressive on the brakes, getting the car rotated, but it's just whether the drivers will notice that he's there. Storm Molina just saying, nope, you're not getting through until we're at least on the straightaway. But you can sense that Aidan Poll has the bit between the teeth and he wants to get back up to that P1 as fast as possible. Will this strategy of pushing right on the green flag be the correct one?
Very interesting. I'm surprised that Aidan Poll tried that move again into turn 9, considering how bad it worked a couple of laps ago. But all over the back of Storm Molina, touching and weaving and spinning out in front. There's another freebie handed out, this time in the GT3 class. Under the cosh was Storm Molina, and eventually abating with the pressure. Through go the Indy cars already. But look at this. This was just the pressure, the blowtorch being applied by Aidan Poll, ducking this way and that. Storm Molina just caught driving in their mirrors and looping it round.
Yeah, very interesting how that car let go, really. I mean, it's like they turned in, thought they had the grip, and then around they go. So, really, really interesting one. Probably maybe a tap of the brakes. I didn't see the brake lights come on. But let's have a look at Joshima's. So, it's possibly going to be contact between the front two. Joshima's there in the Acura on the inside. Let's have a look. Oh, no, just planted the throttle. And I think there was that tiny little brake just before the apex of the corner, which started the rotation. Then they tried to stamp on it to get going, and around they went.
And how unlucky is that for Strootwaffle? Innocent bystander on the outside, taken out. Oh, look to the inside, down into turn number 9. Chesnoid just left the door ever so slightly ajar for Aidan Poll to have a look. The lead going to change hands, is it? No, this is the battle for 3rd and 4th. Alex Gillen left standing a little bit as Zayla and Brian Lady 3 extend their lead out in front. And it's Merrin now up into 3rd in class. Still Aidan Poll pushing the confines of this circuit all over the place, trying to stuck like glue to the back of Ches. No, a game is McLaren, Porsche versus McLaren, and at the moment it is still Ches that holds that 3rd place within his grasp. But a good run out of turn 1, smallest of opportunities. Are we going to try and repeat the trick we saw on the previous lap? Does Ches keep his car pointing in the right direction? Yes, he does, but he hands 3rd place over to the 12.
It's Aidan Poll day, apparently, in terms of pace. We'll have to wait and see whether that continues. Just wanted to point out Reska Kyoso and I've forgotten the second car, if the Brendan Hyperstar it was, have come into the pits for damage, sadly. So either their tyres have been too damaged, but they just have to get a move on. Now, in the GR86s, we've got Chucky George, followed by Timo, who's been on a charge recently. But DM Gal also putting it 3 cars in the fight for the lead, and then you've got 4th and 5th fighting behind them. So once again, these GR86s, a lot of predictions were that they were going to try and bump draft. We'll have to wait and see. Well, it's not happening for the front two, at least.
Really good run out of the final corner. Here we go with Diamgal trying to take 2nd place away from Timo. They've seen that Chucky George has scampered off into the distance by the tune of over 6 seconds. We're going to try and hang it around the outside, though, with Timo in that beautiful luminous lime green car, the GR86 on the inside. Here comes the IndyCar, though. I think that might be Reska Kyoso trying to find a path to weave through the moving barricades. We go all the way over to the left-hand side. Diamco has managed to dispossess Themo of 2nd place, and don't think it's done just yet, because here comes Fabian Gaming to the inside of turn number 4 as well. Could be caught short, could be hung out to dry on the outside. Themo, and does have to relinquish yet another spot. Bit of a choo-choo train forming as recent Gosh down, just getting balked a little bit behind the 304.
Yeah, I thought that the pace was just a glitch in the timing, but no, you can see them in the distance there. DM Gal will have to chase them down. Let's have a look here. Brennan Hyperstar then. What is going to happen here? Is this where they got the damage somehow? It's showing that there was an incident, and there is a pass. Who was that on? Round the outside? It's Lithium Fox. So Lithium Fox having quite a bad day. Maybe the tyre's overheating. And yeah, that's a clean overtake around the outside. Nearly dipping into the gravel, though. That was so close. Meanwhile, GR86 is too wide once again.
Battle rages on. Aidan Pole now tucked up underneath the rear wing of Josh's corner. Round 2. The first went to the Ferrari. What can the Porsche do? Just moving over, trying to force Josh's corner into a little bit of a blunder, as we saw Aidan Pole execute so effectively with Storm Molina. Door left wide open, Aidan Pole plunders through it, and that is second place. Very easy move there for the 12 car. 3 seconds off the back of it's Des, who is leading the GT3 charge at the moment, but Aidan Pole going to be romping up behind that 21 car very shortly, with Zayla opening a 2.2 second gap out in front of the Indy class, with Ryan 83 suddenly under pressure from Josh Merrin and Alex Gillen.
Yeah, I think Ryan got balked there a little bit by traffic, so he was definitely a lot closer. We've had a spin there off just in front of our cameras. I wanted to point out Josh's corner has a lot of damage on the rear of that. Oh, that's a GR86. That's Ryan in the wars once again. I can't believe it. It's happened. I don't know what to say anymore about it. I think Josh Merrin might have picked up some damage as well. I definitely saw the wing let loose a little bit. Let's see what's happened here. Oh, just a misread.
Yeah, and backing into the car that we made contact with. That is Thema, who is getting in from all angles, really.
No.
I think Ryan's going to crash into his own community entry. Bang, 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 bang. 4 bits of contact made. One GR86 recovers. Ryan sent spinning 360 degrees. Josh Merrin and Alex Gillen just about getting away with glancing blows. They have now lost 5 seconds to Zayla in the lead.
I mean, I feel for the GR86 there, because there's no way you can see, or your spotter won't even tell you what's approaching, so you just have to try and rejoin, and yeah, it's just that you choose the wrong moment, and that's the end of that, really. So very unfortunate, and for Ryan and all of the others to get caught up in that, what was a very simple just misreading incident, is very unfortunate. But as we've seen in Creator Series, it's not the end of the game. There probably will be some chaos or unsafety cars at some point. I'm surprised that didn't call one out, to be fair, but we'll have to wait and see. As we're seeing also what Ryan predicted, in that you have to take some special lines into the corners to get these overtake done, and I think that's what's causing some of the incidents.
A lot of drivers definitely having to take a few liberties around this circuit. I wonder if Alex Gillen maybe picked up a bit more damage than we first thought in that exchange on the previous lap. Just had third place taken off his hands by the recovering Ryan 83. Down the inside goes Hayden Gullis, moving past Josh's corner. This is Alex Gillen now behind Ryan 83 in the battle for the final spot inside the top 3. Solstice a further 1.6 seconds off the back of this duo. Josh Merrin now 2.5 seconds up the road. Here is Alex Gillen. Does he get bulked behind one of the GR86s into turn 1? Not too much. Does lose a little bit of time. I think Ryan's going to be punchy here. Now stuck like glue to the back of the 77 of Alex Gillen, who slides ever so slightly wide. And that is all the invitation that Ryan 83 needs as he blunders on through.
Yeah, I mean, he's very lucky to have gotten away with no damage for a start from the incident. So he's got a lot of work to do now, though, because that's about 9 seconds to catch up. So let's see. Stroopmoffel, we're hearing, has had a collision, and it's with another GR86. I didn't catch which number that was, but all the way into the barrier, and that's a wheel off. That's going to be a tow to the pit lane.
As a total car. And like I said, wasn't 100% sure which of the GR86s it was, although it was a bright yellow car, which probably tells me that it's Chesnoid Gaming's community entry. Darting all over the place is the battle for the lead in the GT3 class. Inside, outside, inside, outside it is for Aidan Pole. Des trying to put up a fight, not going to go down without a fight, is Porsche versus Lamborghini. Des still trying to hang it around the outside, but eventually Aidan Pole won 3 out of 4 races in the GT3 class, looking to make it 4 out of 5, and he does take the lead for the first time this evening.
Yeah, that's daunting. To be involved in an incident, spun round on lap 2, and then all the way back up to the first position in GT3. That is a storming pace for sure, and I think it's Devs TV will probably just be saying, hey, I'm glad to be in P2 here, as that was a late move there for the IndyCar to go and get out of the slipstream. I thought that was going to end in disaster.
Oh, he's looped it round. Aidan Poll's dropped it on the exit of turn 7, hands the lead straight back over to its Des. Thank you very much, please, and thank yous. And Josh's corner moves back up into second place as well. Uncharacteristic error there from Aidan Poll coming through turn 6 it was, not 7. And we'll see on board coming out of the hairpin. I think he's just going to loop it round. Oh, he gets a whack.
I think that was collision. Yeah, my footage was a little bit delayed there, so you caught me by surprise, Tom. But yeah, I can't explain that one. Just, it looks like a tap, but was it just maybe the traction control just saying I can't do anything more for you? I'm not quite sure. So let's have a look again. So he goes in deep to try and not get hindered. And yeah, it is. It's a tap by its Des TV, just not expecting Aidan. Aidan was trying to already come back across for the next corner, and so its Des was just taking the normal racing line. So I think racing incident there.
Yeah, interesting how much the off-board shot initially just clouded what we saw, because it did look like it was just a lazy spin on throttle application. For Aidan Poll, very wide there as Ryan at 83. Got Solstice for company. Alex Gillen continues to leak time as darting right over to the left-hand side of the circuit goes Solstice, but tighter line that allows Ryan at 83 to sweep back around the outside and keep third place for the time being. Seeing some really good racing going on, has to be said. Ryan struggling with the back of that car, moving over, and will be diving into pit road. So Ryan maybe fixing a little bit of damage, getting rid of those tyres, refueling as well as Zayla Merrin and now Solstice complete your top 3 in the Indy class.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of compound damage from all of the incidents there, maybe even some flat spotting of tyres. I'm not sure if Ryan actually looped it rounds there in the gravel trap, so it may have affected the tyres. Oh, triple overtake here, no way! Aidan Poll going for the overtake on Josh's corner, Reska Kyoso going up the inside of both of them. Somehow, they've actually kept it out of any sort of incidents here. I'm not exactly sure how you do that, because that was a 3 wide on the track. There's barely enough for 3 cars. Oh,
Des is gone.
There we go. Des is gone.
Out,
I think Reska Kyoso. Yeah.
Yeah, Reska Kyoso trying to come through. Des now handing the lead back over to Aidan Poll. The Lamborghini spinning out into the gravel. You can see there the front wing damage for the Indy car of Reska Kyoso. 9th at the moment, picked up a place with Alex Gillen in the pits. We're going to see what happened. Here comes the Lamborghini out of turn 9. Reska Kyoso to the inside. What do you make of that one?
Well, I'm thinking that was more like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, Silverstone 2021. I mean, Reska Kyoso was up the inside. I think just maybe Estes TV wasn't expecting them to go for the move, so they just turned in a little bit too early. Looks like just a pure misjudgment, really, there, and it's caught out both cars effectively. They both ruined their opportunity to score a lot of points. It's Estes TV down to P5 and Reska Kyoso back down to P9 with damage as well visible.
Yeah, Kyoso definitely wasn't fully committed down the inside either, just sort of dangled the nose, a little bit of a 50-50 send. And that's sometimes all that can lead to the accidents that we see week in, week out, as both of them coming a cropper with that one and paying a hefty price for, like you said, just a very minor misjudgment. Battle for third in the Indy class. You can see Des in the background trying to make up for lost time. It's Ches with encephalosis pretty much, in fact, definitely pushing the McLaren into the braking zone there. A little bit of a love tap at the rear as McLaren and Mercedes do battle once more through 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 up towards turn 10. You're going to be a brave man to jug it down the inside. Not a lot of braking goes on there, and it will be Ches that keeps hold of that third place. Interesting to see what the response of Des is behind, just taking chunks of time out of this duo. Had some really strong pace, obviously leading for the first few laps in the GT3 class before getting caught by Aidan Poll, getting the lead back and then getting hit around by one of the Indy cars as Reska Kyoso. This could be shaping up for a nice little 3-way scrap for position number 3.
I agree totally, and it's good to see that this Des TV hasn't let himself get demoralised a little bit like we've seen in some previous events. Just attacking again, going for it, and Is that rain that I see on track? I think it is. Look at that. I'm not sure. Yes, it is. It's appearing on multiple cameras. So, rain on the radar. We did have an indication that this might happen. But what will be the crossover point? And of course, this blows all of the strategy out of the window. You can have a good race as we see Zella still in the lead by 5 seconds there, going for the overtakes. Just in the background there, you can see Josh Merrin. That is the visible gap. As Ancephalosis looking to get the overtake done once again. And these two seem to have the same pace every single time that we go racing, and it's a spectacle to watch, isn't it?
All the rain coming down there into turn number 4. Not raining at the moment in the second half of the track, so that could make for a very interesting dynamic. You could see as Ancephalosis misses the braking point, sliding slightly wide. I think Chez had a poor run through turn 7, though, and that means the McLaren isn't close enough to try and re-attack and re-assault the Mercedes that now occupies third place on the road. And Zayla, that was a little bit dicey, wasn't it, for the IndyCar class leader? To the inside there is Josh Merrin, I think that you mentioned, gets one over on Des, and will now blast past Ancephalosis and Chesnoid Gaming for free on the run into turn 1. And it's nice to see as well, like you mentioned, Des staying headstrong here. Could have very easily just lost that rhythm, lost the flow, got back on his bike, back underneath the rear of what is now the McLaren of Ches in front, who I have to say as well, doing a very, very strong job. Ancephalosis, Chesnoid, it's Des, 4th, 5th, with 3rd just in front of them, scrabbling for grip ever so slightly, the McLaren. You can see the spray being kicked up and the droplets forming on the windscreen.
Yeah, when you have to switch on the windscreen wiper, that means that it's getting quite dicey out there, and you can see the changing lines. Chesnoid couldn't find any traction out there, and this Des TV has gone round the outside, and I think we're going to have a 2-wide last of the late breakers into the hairpin corner, as it's called, a very simple name. Oh, Des goes for late defense. I think that was a little bit too late in the braking zone. That'll be debatable. Chesnoid manages to avoid it, but here goes Solstice around the outside. Solstice doesn't need any of this. This is their private battle. We don't want to get caught up in it. They're going to go too wide. Chesnoid up the inside. Oh, Joshua has collected Solstice.
Oh no, and Joshua spins it round as well. It's a comedy of errors going through turn 6 and turn 7. Ches somehow has managed to get, or stay ahead, sorry, of its Des, but they've lost 3 seconds to Ancephalosis. Joshua's there. Little bit of a blunder, it's fair to say. Just boxed in there as Solstice and slams into the rear left-hand corner. And then while trying to avoid over the grass, as Solstice backs into the wall, the Acra couldn't quite plant the throttle down on the grass and ends up sideways. But it was a really interesting battle, wasn't it? Ancephalosis afforded the opportunity to escape from Chesnoid Game, and Grand Poobah now in 5th as Des make his way into the pits.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was more driving, sort of more akin of burnout than in iRacing, but there you go. And also credit to you, Tom, for keeping your commentary while our producer was losing his mind in the background. Very professional of you. And he's still losing his mind in the background. But
it's absolutely creasing at that.
He is, and he still is. And I understand why, because we were so focused on its Des TV and I think it was Chesnoid, that we weren't paying attention to the background, and all of a sudden chaos in the background. This is what happens on Creator Series, and I wanted to talk about that as well. Consistency means 2 things in the Creator Series. It means being consistent in your lap times, but also being consistent in where you put the car on the track. And at the moment, I think a lot of people are failing that second part.
Yeah, consistency of drivers driving into each other. That's the most consistent thing we're seeing. This is Storm Molina in the Aston Martin, currently running in 7th for the 007 car. Under pressure from one of the IndyCars. Can't quite tell who it is. I think it might be, is that Smiler Bull in the 106 car trying to come through? We'll have to wait and see. I think that's Ryan Lady 3 in the background, so that does confirm it is Smiler Bull up in 6th position. We return to the GR86s. This battle's been interesting. There is Aidan Pohl just catching them in that beautiful red and black Porsche. Almost looks evil, doesn't it, as it approaches in the rear view mirrors. Both of them getting out of the way, having to thread the needle. Oh, Aidan Pohl had to have his wits about him there. The GR86 is a little bit indecisive as where to place their car. Eventually, the GT3 class leader does get through without incident, and it's really fanned out in that class, hasn't it? Equidistant, 8 seconds separating 1st and 2nd, another 8 seconds separating 2nd and 3rd.
It doesn't help that the IndyCars are trying to overtake left, right, and centre. They're not going for like a predictable move. That both the GR86s, as we saw the battle there with DM Gal and Timo there, just real quick, but it's just the case of being predictable, and nobody is doing that today. So you're setting up for an IndyCar overtake on the inside, and all of a sudden they decide to go around the outside and go bowling alley. As here we go now, Ryan trying to get the overtake done. Will he get it done right now? Last late breakers, he's going for it as well. Oh, that was so close to the front wing. What will happen here? We got Grand Pooh Bear ahead as well. Will it be Bowling Ball Alley? Probably not at the moment, as on the inside there was no traction. Ryan all the way around the outside. That was quite simply the cleanest move we've seen so far, I think.
Thankfully, it wasn't a gutter ball for either of them, as Ryan does pull through. Interesting, in the latter stages of the IndyCar class, we have got some drivers that have bolted on the wet weather tyres. Solstice and Alex Gillen currently out there on the wet compound tyre. And their lap times not particularly competitive compared to the drivers still on the slicks at this stage, but it is getting wetter and wetter. You can see the spray just starting to get kicked up. Some slower lap times as we're now in the 117s with Zayla 119s, but the majority of the top 5 in the IndyCar class. The problem for Alex Gillen in particular is he's been on those tyres now for 5 laps, and as the track has got wetter and wetter, he may have just burnt through them ever so slightly.
Well, I mean, we don't see any rain on screen either, and I'm not seeing any visible spray from the car, so I can only presume that the track conditions aren't actually getting that much worse. You can see a little bit of spray here in Sector 1, but around other parts of the track, it's presumably quite dry. So I think Alex has done a prime 2013 Alex when I was league racing against him, where he pitted for intermediates and it actually never ever turns to intermediate conditions. And it could be the case. Let's see what tyres they put on here. So Zella, the leader in the pit lane, Josh Merrin right behind there as well. So we'll have to stay focused on the timing boards there. Which one will update first? Let us have a look. Oh, it's some more dry tyres going on. So I don't think anybody's considering that it's wet enough at the moment, but you can see there on the onboards it's still raining in Sector 1.
And that's not exactly light rain either. And you can hear it just clattering down on the car as well. So interesting decision there. Looked a little bit tentative coming out of pit road with Zayla. They're just trying to get some temperature in the tyres. Going to be doubly difficult in these conditions. Brendan Hyperstar and Lithium Fox both still out there, separated by just half a second at the moment. 20 laps apiece on their tyres. They both boxed at the end of the opening lap for damage. Now find themselves first and second on the road, and maybe with an opportunity if the rain does get heavier, as Brendan Hyperstar late there into the braking zone of the hairpin, just trying to find the grip wherever he can. I wonder if Zeller and Josh Merrin have made a blunder here, because Hayden Gullis into the pits for the wet weather tyres. Reska Kyoso in as well, I imagine for the wets, because it's definitely getting damper and damper out there.
Yeah, for sure. Now it looks like it. You can clearly see the spray. Although, you know, it seems to be very, like, patchy here and there across the track. You can see here, we're at, I think this is the end of Sector 3 here, going into the last 2 turns. And it's only starting to rain there in the last 2 turns. So very tricky. And I think they're also out of fuel as well. So they need to pit whatever the circumstances. And I think that's what Alex is going to try to do. Pit earlier, get some more fuel on board and try and undercut everybody to gain some positions. Whether it'll work or not is a great question at the moment, because I'm not seeing those lap times being sort of any better than anybody on worn dry tyres at the moment.
And 30 seconds off the back of Reska Kyoso in 9th. So Gillen with a lot of work to do in the second half of this race if the conditions stay as they are. Josh Merrin back into the pits. You can imagine that'll be for the wet weather tyres, but Zayla continues to soldier on. Interesting divergence there has led the majority of this race so far. Came in on the previous lap for another set of the slick tyres. You can see the spray being kicked up. The rain first arrived about 5 laps ago around this very part of the circuit, through turn 4 and the run up into the hairpin of turn number 5. It does look, though, that it is just deteriorating. Track conditions getting worse and worse. Brendan Hyperstar taking half a second out of Zayla already on this lap alone. So Zayla, the Lone Ranger, the Lone Warrior out front. This is where it's a little bit drier, though, through turn 7. Able to get the power down a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, they've kind of committed to this at this point, unless it gets super tricky. And it looks like they're carrying great apex speed at the moment. So I don't see how they're going to lose that gap. And it's not actually coming down this lap for the moment. So we'll have to wait and see. But also, I want to point out the GT3 cars apparently don't believe in rain. Rain just doesn't exist on their screen. As I think, oh my days, that's a Stroop Waffle, isn't it? Spun around? My days, that Mustang parked on the exit of the last turn. That would have been a fright for Zella, who might not have the best grip at the best of times. And you have to avoid a car then. It's a great way of warming up the tyres, at least.
Zela's a lot quicker. That gap has just extended over 22 seconds. So is this actually the best play? Love 46 is still out there, albeit in last place in class on the dry tyres. So the divergence, 23 seconds. Now the gap between Zela and Brendan Hyperstar, last week's winner, the leader of the wet tyre brigade, but might be under pressure because Zela could have pulled a blinder here. The rain continues to fall, but the tyres clearly still working very, very nicely. Zela's going to try and pick off the GR86s through the slow speed corners. A little bit dicey as you're just dicing with that loud pedal, trying to be as precise as possible with the throttle. Into the pits comes Aidan Pohl. Grand Poubert, the only one in the GT3s at the moment to have the wet weather tyres on. Rain does look a little bit heavier there, though, through turn 7 than it did on the previous lap.
I'm just thinking to myself right now as we wait for the tyres to update for the GT3 cars, and it's one thing going across my mind is quite literally that you want two types of tyre on your car. Either a brand new set of dry tyres which you can get temperature into before it gets too dicey, and where you have a good tread pattern, as that's a GR86. Ryan L83's community entry there that sadly had to tow to the pit lane. But you want that fresh compound that has a lot of tread on it so it keeps the tyre temperature, or you want the stable intermediate or wet tyre. And this is Hayden Gullis versus Ryan L83, as we were talking about the community entry, all the way around the outside. Ryan's going to get boxed in if he's not careful. He's actually made it, and Josh's corner now is boxing him in. Josh's corner just wanting to get out of the way. He's on dry tyres. You can see how slippery and slidey it is, even on the what I call the correct compound. Although Zella really not losing much pace at the moment. Although I will say it is coming down only by a couple of tenths. And the thing is with rain tyres, isn't it, Tom? It only takes one corner and you're off into the barrier.
100%. It's going to be fascinating because different parts of the circuit are currently experiencing different amounts of rain.
Oh, there we go.
Do we spin it? Yes, we do. Coming out of turn 5, I believe that is. That is probably the telltale sign now that you want to get shot of those tyres. And Zela maybe just going for one lap too long on the dry compound, diving down the inside of one GR86. There's Aidan Pohl in front, who's recently been through the pit lane as well, to put on another set of the dry tyres in the Porsche. Just, I mean, feathering the throttle, but even that was enough to send it round. Yeah,
no, that wasn't even feathering the throttle. That was literally a blip of the throttle, maybe 5%, and it was enough to spin you around. So, yeah, I mean, you can see it just trying to get on the throttle. And the problem is now they've given away what was probably, I wouldn't say a comfortable pit stop for the lead. No way, they're going round again. Well, they're committing to the bit, I guess.
The definition of making your bed and lying in it at this stage. Half a second lost. It looks so difficult out there for Zela. Josh is corner in the GT3s for wet tyres. Des and Grand Poubert already on them. As Zela going to continue to soldier on out in front, threading the needle between, I think that was Grand Poubert on the wet tyres in the BMW and the GR86 that was coming out of the pit lane. Still, the pace looks strong. It just looks so difficult. Brendan Hypestart, another second taken out of Zela there, though, through the first couple of corners. Now down to 11.5. And he won Aidan Pohl back in the pits as well, by the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. So did Aidan Pohl maybe pick up some damage there or something? We saw him wide on the... Was it maybe a wrong tyre change or something? I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but we definitely saw them into the pits. But we also saw them in front of Zela, just getting all out of shape as well. So something has gone on there, and that's taken them from a very comfortable lead. Let's have a look at a replay here. So what has happened to Aidan Pohl? I think he was already on the wet tyres. This is Zela in the background, so this is where Zela spins. It's the same corner. I think they're still on the dry compound tyres here at this point. So, oh, it is a spin. We were so focused on Zela that we didn't even see Aidan Pohl.
Yeah, and Aidan Pohl came into the pits on this lap to put on another set of the slick tyres, or the dry tyres for the GT3. So having to come back in for the wets, that is not good news.
Oh, there, I think I'm getting word of an unsafety car being called. Let us
know what for,
see.
Though.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Oh, Zela
look at
again on the grass.
Don't get on the grass. Oh, my goodness me. Especially if there's an unsafety car. This can spare your blushes there. Emerging is the unsafety car. It looks like it's just got a little bit brighter as well, potentially. Yes, the sun just poking through the clouds.
Yeah, in this circumstance, Zella has to stay out and just hope that it gets dry under the unsafety car period. Probably just some mud getting brought out onto track. That's why the unsafety car is out, because there's a lot of grass there and it's probably quite damp, really, knowing the Japanese sort of conditions at this point in the year. So as soon as you go onto that, the grass just transformed into earth and mud, and that's the end of it. So, yeah, I remember when Zella was going off, I was thinking that strangely looks like Aiden Pole spinning as well in the same frame, but I couldn't choose which words to go with, and I was correct when the two of them were spinning. Tandem drifting, except it didn't really go well. You can see, even though they're not pushing, they just cannot get any grip. So this is the roll of the dice now. Do you pit? Do you get a new set of tyres on the car? I mean, the people toward the back of their respective packs, they can do that free of charge. If they lose a place, so what? But at the front, as I think this is Zella, off into the gravel on the same turn again, it's starting to become a thing of you need to pit for tyres, and that's the end of that.
And this, the second half of the lap, that is where this IndyCar is going to feel like an absolute boat. The low-speed corners, trying heavy braking. Car just doesn't want to slow down. A little bit of a lock-up of the front right, and that just sends you skating into the gravel. Zella tries to make it round. Surely, it's really difficult, is it? Do you come in? Do you get rid of those tyres?
At the end of the day, you've already lost out. If you pit now, if you sorry for interrupting you, Tom, but if you have got caught behind the unsafety car, but you stay out, that's it. You've committed to it, and so if you pit now, you're going to lose possibly. Let's do a bit of calculations. All the way down to P6. I'm not going to say 6 or the number that follows it, but you get what I mean. And that's sort of a lost cause anyway, so you've kind of made your commitment. You're better to stay out and just see what happens. If you pit when the unsafety car comes in, then you're going to lose approximately the same time anyway, in my opinion.
What's worse, though? Losing 3 positions, maybe you would slot... Might come out in third if Zella went in on the previous lap. There was about 30 seconds between Josh Marion and Ryan 83. Do you concede those places, or do you lose 1, 2, 3 tyres, a load of bits of bodywork strewn across the circuit as well? It depends where your priorities are sitting, I guess. If you are Zella, happy to continue on out in front. Led the majority of this race, but the second 50% has been far from comfortable.
Yeah, you've got to consider the other thing as well, aura farming. Literally, if you stay out and the track gets dry, you look like a god. And that's exactly what you want to go for as a racing driver. That's exactly what I'd do in this situation. Yeah, the race is kind of lost if I pit now, so I'm not going to pit. I'm just going to hope that it dries up. And the weather does look a bit more bright, as you were saying, and it may be that it's clearing up. Still seeing rain falling, though, so I'm not convinced in that one. And the spray is actually a lot bigger this lap, so I might retract that statement while I can.
Ryan 83 back into pit road, along with Alex Gillen. That'll be for another set of the wet weather tyres. You can see the tram lines already being formed. That is how wet it is starting to get. But it is Zella continuing the charge out in front. Hope everybody in the chat is respecting it, because we certainly are in the commentary box. And if it stays like this, that restart is going to be fascinating. Encephalosis was also, prior to the unsafety car being called, still out there on the dry tyres as well in the GT3s. Has, though, jumped into the pits, handed the lead over to Josh's corner. Joshima's, after all the dramas that Acra car has experienced in the first half or so of this race, now up into second place, Joshima. So has clearly got the strategy and the switch and the crossover point to the wet tyres absolutely spot on.
Just easy. Just wait for the others to bin it, and then you don't have to do anything really. Profiting from the situation. You can see Hayden was sort of thinking, oh, I want to go up the inside there, even behind unsafety car conditions. I want to point out, I hope the unsafety car is on wet weather tyres, otherwise we might have an interesting restart when the unsafety car fails to pull away from the front of the grid. So we'll have to wait and see whether that was anticipated. I'm sure it was, but it's one of those things where you have to stop and think, hang on, wait a minute, what's going on here? So as we see them do another lap, nobody pitting now, so Zella has... in. Oh, Zella is in. Yes, indeed. So they're going for your strategy then.
You can't put on the wet tyres now. Surely you've gone so far. I'd be disappointed if I see the blue... Oh no, they have done. That has disappointed me, I must admit. Zella eventually giving up on the trial by dry tyres when the rain is coming down. The dry tyres wet track challenge. Don't want to drive into Josh's corner. Thankfully, the Ferrari, the 99 Ferrari, does get out of the way. But that's Zayla choosing option A, which was hand over 5 positions rather than option B, which is hand over your tyres to the marshals as they pick them up post-race.
Yeah, it's kind of like option C at that point, because option A and option B were boxing as soon as the unsafety car came out, which would have probably netted you another position, maybe P5 if you boxed then. But option C was boxing at the worst point for the correct tyres and losing the positions now, because now they need to get them up to temperature as well, which you can't really do behind an unsafety car. And yeah, that's going to be painful as well. The positive, though, is that they have more fuel on board. So with 24 laps to go, I think that's really pushing it to having another pit stop in this race. So that at least means that we have some more drama to behold this race, let's say. As yeah, the positions haven't changed in the GR86s either. They're all a sort of line astern for a moment, although Fabian Ming apparently is still on the dry compound tyre, which is a bold strategy. I can't wait to see whether it works out or not.
Most definitely. That's going to be a fascinating one. Alex Gillen also into the pit lane again, unsurprisingly to refill, as you would expect. These are the battles going on from the GR86s from earlier on when the sun was still out. This was an almighty scrap theme, you can see in the middle, in the lime green GR86 car. Diamgal at the front, just about a second up the road, just running slightly wide. I think we're going to get a tasty little battle down into turn 1.
Indeed, we will. And yeah, that I think this where the collision happened. I'm not quite sure, but
yes,
that was. I think it was. Let's have a look. Yes, it was. Yeah, I remembered it correctly. I think it's just a complete misreads there by both of them still, and it's so unfortunate that one of them gets caught basically on the apex of what's that, turn 2, and you can see even more cars. I didn't realise that there's another GR86 that gets caught up in it as well.
Well, they were one of the stragglers along with the Indy cars that we saw. Ryan 83, the big loser on that regard. I imagine we're going to see Ryan's perspective here as we go into turn 1. Josh Merrin and Alex Gillen in hot pursuit. You can see the smoke being kicked up because we've already got a car round. As we go in, we're going to get, slammed into the wall by the stationary car. There's Ryan getting spun round as well, 360 degrees, almost, well, stopping on a standstill there with a little bit of damage. Just about Merrin and Gillen getting away scot-free. As we return to the live action, the track is very wet, but has the rain subsided?
It doesn't. Well, I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, it's not raining actively as far as I can see, but again, the track is just laden with water. As we see a lot of people in the pits. Hang on a minute. Everybody in the pit lane here. Lithium Fox, Hayden Gullis, Ryan going for, I presume, another lap of fuel just to make sure that they can get to the end. We've seen drivers do this before when there's a late unsafety car, and I think literally they're just taking 1 or 2 laps of fuel and then straight back out once again to have the edge on the other drivers who will have to lift and coast a little bit to save fuel. By my calculations, based on dry running performance, it's about 20 to 21 laps that you can go on the fuel before you have to pit.
There was a drag race out of the pit lane as well with, I think it was Lithium Fox and Hayden Gullis battling with that freshly refilled tank, and it was Gullis that came out on top. It does have 8th place ahead of Lithium Fox with Ryan 83 just behind. Yes, there, spat out of pits at exactly the same moment. Who was braver to take the limiter off? Lithium Fox, I think, had it, but it was Gullis who's probably going to send it down the inside. The race to the safety car line, and Gullis almost clatters into Alex Gillen as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was pure ego aggression there out of the pits. I mean, Hayden Gullis will never give it up, and so yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. The unsafety car's around. What's gone on here? I'm not sure that's meant to happen, or it might have happened a little bit too early. Has the unsafety car been out all of this time? The unsafety car is on the wet compound tyre, so I think that's just showboating, and around they go. Oi, 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 all of that power deployed, and also trying to rejoin in front of the Indy cars. This unsafety car is really living up to its name.
The unhinged cars are going to slam once again into the wall. The front bumper is sent into orbit as eventually that stricken car, the unsafety car, is taken away from our sight and is returned, plopped back into the pit lane. It will leave Brennan Hyperstar out in front to lead the charge. into the unknown potentially with the conditions that they're currently facing. The rain has definitely stopped, but the circuit is still wet. It's going to be slippery out there. Got to try and find the grip, find your comfort zone, find the rhythm as quickly as you possibly can. Hyperstar, Merrin leading them away. Josh's corner, the leader in the GT3s from Joshmas. How quickly can Aidan Pohl come through? That'll be the question.
It will be. I'm still reeling from that unsafety car collision, to be fair. I've never seen a car fly into the barrier with that aggressiveness right there. But yes, Brendan Hyperstar will have the restart and will decide to go even before the last corner. I thought they might. They looked like they were setting up for it. Josh Merrin has followed them, but that is, I think, Solstice in P3 has not managed to find the traction there. Look at the gap and look at Reska Kyoso go for it.
Appearing through the gloom, Josh Merrin had a look down the inside. Kyoso up into third, Smileable up into fifth. Bazela battling a couple of cars off. One of them in the background, I believe that is Smileable, Love 46 potentially off as well. This Hayden, guys, look at the gravel being brought back onto the circuit as we get going in the GT3s. This is Storm Molina under pressure. Aidan Pohl on the button straight away down the inside, picking up a place right from the word go. That is sixth, becoming fifth for the 12th car. Chesnoid Gaming a little bit wild just in front. I think that's Grand Pooh trying to find the space, battling away with its Des TV of a 7th and 8th as well. Remember, Des in the Lamborghini, former leader in class for a bit of a tete-a-tete, not once but twice with Aidan Pohl, who's really looking to get a shift on here all over the back of Chesnoid, trying to poke their way through the spray. Ches around the outside of Ancephalosis, who's tentative through turn 4, and the McLaren goes clean around the outside of the Silver Arrow.
Oh, the V-shape there, though, on the corner by Aidan Pohl. He's going to have so much speed. He's going to be alongside Ancephalosis, I think, in the overtakes. Let's see, around the outside. Yeah, he's already got the overtake done. Look at how late they break. Chesnoid's got it wrong. Aidan Pohl's got it wrong. They've broken way too late. I thought they were just trying to be impressive. Well, they were until it went wrong, and so through goes Ancephalosis. But in all of that, Aidan Pohl has still gained the position and he remains in P4, so I think it worked out, really. As I think Des also is
off.
Oh, yes, that's
you can just see the Acra backwards as Aidan Pohl to the inside, trying to take second place from Ancephalosis. Brendan Hyperstar still leading away from Merrin. We come back to the GT3s. Well. Inside becomes the outside. Ancephalosis has the high line.
Yeah, Des TV was off there in the background as they're still side by side. Aidan Pohl really just giving no quarter there, just saying, I'm taking this corner. If you want to get pushed wide, please be my guest. And so Ancephalosis just relinquishes the position. You can see how hard he's pushing right now. Just all of the weight of that car with the additional 15 kilograms might even be even more of a problem in wet conditions. But Aidan Pohl has the pace, and Josh's corner at the moment, it's looking like it will be another rematch between them. Meanwhile, in the GR86s, Chucky George's advantage has been negated to 0 with that unsafety car, and so it's up to DM Gal and Reese to chase them down for the moment. You can see how wild they are through that last corner, understeering, and then just as they hit the curb, getting a little bit of oversteer. Important to manage the traction here. DM Gal doesn't appear to have that much straight line speed. Interesting, but Zella being challenged there for position, and also Hayden Gullis looking to make amends from Lithium Fox there. Now the battle GT3s as well, as Josh's corner is decidedly under pressure. No way he goes around the outside.
He's had a few adventures here, has Aidan Pohl, but a bit of a tail wag there from Josh's corner, hanging the back of the Ferrari in the face of the Porsche. This way, Nat Pohl looking to try and get the traction to send it to the inside. Josh's corner has to hang it out around the outside. Aidan Pohl bulked on the inside, didn't want to have a coming together with the purple and white Ferrari in front. And once again, just has to bide his time. Late, a little bit too late under braking into turn 8. Just trying to be creative with his lines, give himself an opportunity to get an overlap, a foothold in this battle between himself and corner for the lead. The switchback again imposed. We have got a foothold into the penultimate corner. Pohl to the inside. And Pohl does take the lead off the hands of Josh's corner.
Yeah, Josh's corner just understeered through Hobbs' corner, as it's known. So the third to last turn. And that was done and dusted then, because Aidan Pohl could finally get the switchback. He'd been trying to set it up for multiple corners before that, but Josh's corner did a great job of defending it. But, you know, once they're alongside, not much you can do. Des TV, again, had the pace and now has lost confidence. Now Joshua's challenging, but so far no move can be done. Back with the IndyCars, though, it's becoming a bit of a tricky situation, I think, with the tyres, as they're still slipping and sliding. There's no traction control for them, so they're having to be so careful in this traffic.
Really feels like a dogfight at the moment. Hyperstar and Merrin just trying to work their way through the traffic. They've got 5 seconds in hand over Zayla behind. Better run out of the final corner for Merrin as they appear through the gloom and the spray. There is absolutely naught that you can see. Tentative into turn 1 goes Merrin on the inside. Hyperstar trying to find the grip on the karting line on the outside. And for the time being, the winner of the last race in Fuji keeps hold of the class lead for the IndyCars. It's Merrin who has a big swapper almost. Coming through turn 3. Just had to try and straighten the car up, calls the assault. That is very wet. Don't want to be dipping a wheel into the grass there on the run through the kink up towards turn 4. But again, both of them really hustling these cars, and they've got a big pace advantage over the group behind.
It's outrageous how much they're on the limit. You can just see from the steering, they are taking every ounce of performance out of these cars to create a 7-second gap now to Zilla, who's not holding up anyone behind them in third place. They're just sat in the middle of nowhere. It's Lithium Fox that's under pressure from Ryan L83 at the moment. But these two have just taken this race and gone, right, we're going for it. And that was, I think, Lithium Fox having a little bit of a moment there.
Damage.
Will Ryan L83 be alongside? Yeah, there is damage on the car. I think that is Ryan. That's a huge amount of damage. What has gone on there?
Maybe a bit of a coming to blows with one of the GR86s. You can see this blue one in front. Maybe that is the culprit. Ryan says thank you very much. Now 3 seconds off the back of Taylor Gillen to the inside, just through the nose. This is Lithium Fox through the final corner. I think Solstice has lost out as well. We'll see what happens as we cut the beam. This was Solstice ahead of Ryan. There is, I believe that is Zayla just in front. As we go down into turn 1, Lithium Fox out on the road has lost places, now down to 7th with that damage. Zayla goes through. Is Lithium Fox going to try and follow suit as well? Does, so keeping it out of trouble for the time being. But look at this maze of GR86s you've got to try and work your way through. Is this the point where we slam into the back of one, braking so much more difficult in these treacherous conditions? To get a whack from behind, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that must have been one of the GR86s just turning in at a really weird angle. Let's have a look at that again. No, it was Ryan. Ryan outbroke himself completely and has gone straight into the back of Lithium Fox. Oh, what a terrible way to have your race sort of thrown into the wind. Ryan just... I don't know how he thought he was going to make that corner, to be fair. It's obvious the conditions are getting worse. Look at the spray.
Absolutely. And it explains why Ryan's lost a couple of places as well. Now behind Gillen, behind Solstice also, and with Hayden Gullis arriving on the scene too in the 86 car. Definitely going to be a little bit of damage there, you would imagine, for Ryan L83, even if we can't necessarily see it. Should be in effect, because that was a big clonk into the back of the 47 into the braking zone of turn 4, just trying to pick his spot because it was a wall of GR86s just in front as the Stroopwafel, I think that is, in the Mustang, just getting caught on the inside as Solstice, who has to go wide, drops a little bit further back behind Alex Gillen, brings Ryan L83 back into the equation. The rain has definitely picked up again. We saw that it had stopped for a moment or so when the unsafety car was coming in. Definitely bucketing it down now as Brendan Hyperstar out in front has found another gear. 3 seconds that margin now.
Yeah, I noticed that gap went up really quickly, so I think it's quite literally a...
Checking the wall.
Oh yeah, that is very unfortunate. Yes, just I think maybe just a spin out. Let's have a look here. It's okay. The car's definitely sort of oversteering. Yeah, there you go. I knew he was going to lose it on the exit. It was just looking twitchy through the corner. A little too much throttle. The traction control goes, I can't deal with this. And around you go. And the sad thing with the GT3 car is once it lets go, there's not much you can do about it. I'd say somehow Ryan, if he has damage on the front wing, it may create a more safe... Hang on a minute. That was a car off. What was that, Solstice?
Yeah, Ryan's come through. So Solstice through the spray, just caught it. Just a little bit of a snap coming out of turn number 4, the outward curve. Now Hayden Gullis fancies a piece of the action around the outside of 5. Again, the back of Solstice car looking very, very lively. Catches the slide again, although loses significantly more time from going perpendicular to the road. That is now 7th place for the 27.
I was going to say, the IndyCar looks twitchy for all of the drivers. I think, ironically, if you give yourself a bit of front wing damage, you might actually create a more stable platform for yourself. So we'll have to wait and see whether that pans out for Ryan, but for Solstice, it's looking undrivable at the moment. I mean, the tyres are the same as everybody else's. You know, they haven't got more fuel on board. In fact, they've got less fuel than most of the drivers around them. So, it could be that they were trying to use the push-to-pass feature to give yourself additional power But the problem with that is it gives you additional wheel spin. And if you're on the exit of a corner, you just think, oh, I can press the button now, and then around you go.
Especially in these conditions. Gullis gets up into 5th place at the expense of Ryan, who's going to have it out again, though, into turn number 2 of Williams. Going to be brave to hang it around the outside. Don't want to get up on the curb on the inside either, because that'll send Ryan spinning into the wall, and maybe Hayden as well. Still eyeball to eyeball as they appear through the spray. And it is Ryan who's brave around the brake. Solstice fancies it around the outside. Hayden Gullis, very tentative there. Got to be careful of the Aston Martin of Stroopwafel as well, or Storm Molina, I should say. Ryan Lady 3 soldiers through. Solstice opportunistic to get past Gullis. And that was excellent work. Hayden Gullis, uncharacteristically tentative.
I think he lost it, actually, on the Moss S, so that's turn 4 and 5. I think they just got really loose. Oh, no, who's this in the barrier? Is that Josh Merriman? No, that isn't Josh Merriman. It's...
Smiler Bull.
Smiler Bull, yes, indeed.
Is this in the same place? Well, already missing half of his front wing, missing the nose cone, understeered into the gravel through turn 2 and bang into the wall. Not a big hit, but enough to do some damage.
Yeah, they're just the compounding problem of, you know, when you go off, you damage the car and you want to get back. Yeah, just lost it on traction. I mean, that's so unfortunate, but it's so easy to do over the curb. You're often told by tutorials in, especially the older racing games, keep off of the curb, there's no grip out there. And it's demonstrating this on iRacing right now. You can't trust the curbs and you have to stay away from them. Joshua's on the inside, that'll allow Solstice through. Ryan can't really do much about that, and it looks like Solstice, after that just difficult maneuver there, losing the traction, has gained the confidence back as well. And I think it's just the case of literally you have a moment, you take a lap to regain confidence, and then in comes Ryan at 83 up the inside again with more confidence, and it will carry on like this until one of them goes off.
Huge ebbs and flows. Solstice driving fearlessly despite the back of the car looking loose. They're going to have to do the Hakkinen and Schumacher over the BMW. We're on the grass with Solstice, but Ryan Lady 3 is already through. I think Solstice maybe just backed off a little bit, sensing the danger. Don't want to be full throttle in the wet on the grass. And does hand 5th place, I should say, back over to 83. This is Chesnoid Gaming, who's been in the walls, but once again gets reacquainted with encephalosis. These two have battled quite a lot this evening. It was at one stage for 3rd and 4th, now for 7th and 8th with Lithium Fox. You can just see appearing there behind them out of the spray. Bit of a snap there for Ches into the braking zone, but he gets the cutback. Lovely stuff as Encephalosis now has to fight it to the inside. Ches trying to make this one work. Little bit of contact, I think, there as the understeer for Encephalosis just pushed him into the path of the McLaren Lithium Fox. Held up massively behind this dueling battle between McLaren and Mercedes. And Ches had dropped it behind them on the exit of turn 7.
Okay, so there's multiple stories here. Chesnoid is spun, but how is Encephalosis missing the entire front of his car? And why is it bent all out of shape? Yeah, I noticed that. Just thinking, hang on, there's meant to be a Mercedes logo there, but there isn't. So he's missing the entire front bumper. Oh, it's the tag from Lithium Fox sending Chesnoid spinning round. So Chesnoid has definitely been in the wars with the... Encephalosis off completely as well, spinning. Cool. I think that's what Hayden nearly done, and that's... Yeah. Oh, no, that's additional damage, because... No, that's when they rejoined. It is a replay.
Yeah, that's what led to it. So this is how they found themselves fighting over the same piece of tarmac. That was scary, though. That would be a code brand if I've ever seen it. With Encephalosis skating over the grass. And then that puts him into combat with Ches. And we know what happens there as Ches gets the tap from Lithium Fox. And that drops Ches back down into 8th place and loses him 10 seconds to boot as well. Absolute bedlam everywhere you look.
Yeah, I got kind of baited by the replay because they lost their rear wing briefly, and I thought, oh, this is additional damage. No, that was just a replay of, I think what's happening to multiple drivers. They're just putting a wheel over the curb at turn 3 and 4, and it's just sending them ricocheting in, like, multiple directions, just based on, I don't know, roll of the dice as far as I can tell, in terms of the puddles and all of that, and it's what you've got to contend with in wet weather driving. One driver that doesn't seem to have any problems at the moment is Brendan Hyperstar. They're just out in keeping that gap of 3 seconds. They don't really seem to be concerned at all as they catch, I think that's Smiler Bull, so Smiler Bull is about to be lapped, sadly, and you can see the difficulty with the IndyCars is the closing speed and the spray. If you have a driver in front of you going at a considerable less speed, and I think an unsafety car has been called, and I'm presuming it's because the rain is absolutely torrential right now.
If not, I'm looking forward to seeing what has called the unsafety car back onto the course. That will erode the lead of Brendan Hyperstar. The same for Aidan Pohl, who had absolutely walked off into the distance by the tune of 14 seconds ahead of Josh's Corner, who's doing an exceptional job in second place as well in that Ferrari, looking for back-to-back podiums, let's not forget, after third in Fuji a couple of weeks ago. Lithium Fox into the pits. Alex Gillen's gone under the radar a little bit as well, fourth at the moment in the IndyCar class. Safety car has been called out due to Aidan Pohl's massive lead in the GT3. So he's got 15 kilos of ballast added. Now he's got a safety car because he's just a little bit too quick.
Yes, there's multiple jokes I'm thinking of that I can't make on live commentary, but Aidan Pohl has a lot of confidence, and I think that might show in the ballast at the moment, if you see what I mean. So, Aidan...
Race control with good confidence as well, by the way, to put that message out.
Indeed as well, yeah. I think Aidan Pohl might be definitely having a bit of an argument after this race, that's for sure. He's done really, really good work to create that gap of 15 seconds, or 12 or 15 seconds, and now it's going to go down to absolutely nothing. I think we'll see everybody in for a pit stop for fresh tyres, but more importantly, to get that race fuel on board. All of the drivers that pitted under the previous unsafety car to get an additional lap's worth of fuel to go to the end, well, now they might have lost track position because of it. However, for those coming out of the pits, now Brendan Hyperstar has managed to pit and come out P3, so that is really great. Alex Gillen and Ryan staying out for the moment. I can only guess that means that they're trying to get to the end, or they calculate that they won't catch the unsafety car before the end of the lap, one or the other.
There it is. As we speak, the
think
unsafety
it's
car
picked up
just
the leader.
stopped there over on the inside, and yes, hasn't picked up the leaders coming through. This is Solstice and Josh Merrin, who, like I said, have just come out of the pit. Brendan Hyperstar just in front. We wait to see Gillen and Ryan 83 appear behind what I believe is Scotty Designs, by the way, piloting once again the unsafety car with his incredible gymnastics work that we've seen twice so far this evening, and hopefully once more to make it a 3 strikeout for himself. Josh's Corner down to P4, P3 solid, because I think Grand Pooh Bear has stayed out as well.
Yeah. It's definitely Scotty unable to find the gear. Well, it's reminding me of that incident that they had at Le Mans a few years ago now with the Cadillac, where they just went completely spinning in torrential rain conditions, and it became a viral video on the internet of just all cars going off left, right, in every direction. Sounds a bit like the Creator Series at the moment, as I think we are seeing... See, Aidan Pohl has slotted in behind. I think Brendan Hyperstar was meant to do that, but it didn't happen. So we have an interesting condition happening here. We'll wait to see if we can pick up any of the Indy cars as we see the GT3 grid sort themselves out progressively. But I mean, looking at the lap times at the moment, it's been quite consistent for all the drivers. So we're looking at a grand restart here with not so many laps to go. There's definitely some opportunities to gain positions. As look at that, it looks like an ice rink there out on track.
Not envious of that. And like you said as well, Gillen and Ryan 83 definitely staying out, and definitely you would expect trying to coax these cars to the end on the fuel load that is still on board their Indy cars. And we saw that it was actually the Stag, not Scotty Designs, as Alex Gillen has an X-incident point of 3.5 currently, so he's clearly been a naughty boy out there. Should have watched his driving last week in the F1 Creator Series, if you know, you know. But anyway, his fuel strategy is going to be an interesting one, because we've seen a lot of times late splash and dash pit stops with 5 laps to go, sometimes even on the last lap, because they realise I'm stuffed here, I'm not going to be able to make it to the end of the race. So Alex Gillen and Ryan 83 will both be in HMS cautious, you would imagine, in the early stages, just while they try and make sure they definitely have the fuel to get to the end, as they do catch up to what is apparently the Stag piloting the unsafety car. That would surprise me, of course, because as we know with the Stag, some say he doesn't like the rain because he doesn't like to get his helmet wet.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it takes approximately 2 hours to polish the helmet before going into these races. So with all of that water messing it up, I mean, it's understandable. It's understandable. But also, some say he's never been to Japan before this. So I think he'll be sightseeing, and I think that's what he was trying to do, just get the next flight of Cadillac Airlines, apparently, on the previous unsafety car exiting the race. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now, because I think Alex and Ryan might struggle, and I know Alex is probably going to call me out for this one because I've been not complimentary seeing what happened in the Creator Series on Clipbook Corner last time out. So let's see what we can he can do.
100%. As I think the majority of drivers have caught the back of the snake, like we saw before. The GT3s are just working themselves out, getting themselves into line accurately and efficiently as possible. It will be Aidan Paul from Grand Poobah, Josh's corner. Joshmus and Ches now back up into position number 5 in his McLaren, of course, with the colours of Cambridge United, his favourite football club. Currently in, I think they're in League 2 at the moment, doing okay. Recently relegated from League 1, so I'm sure Ches was disappointed about that, but he'll be hoping that they can get back up into the 3rd division in England. If you're not a football fan, especially of lower league football in England, that has bored you senseless, but that's some lore behind Chestnut Gaming for you.
I was about to say I'll have to take your word for it. So yes, I'm glad we found that information out for me. I have not a clue, I'll be honest. But I mean, it's like everything. There's so much four-wheeled content to follow that you don't have time to follow everything else. But for sure, I think he'll be hoping that his race goes a little bit better than his favourite football team. Then let's say. As we get just closer to the unsafety car period ending right now, you can see most of the Indy cars are behind. As you can see, the visibility from the hypercar is not great, is it, in the rain? It's not great at the best of times with that closed cockpit. But yeah, I can't imagine that's doing any favours for the Stag wanting to stay out and getting even more water in the helmet.
Not good news. But I would be rather in his position than the group behind, maybe with the exception of Alex Gillen, because the spray is going to be blinding, as we saw previous, but it has rained significantly since then. Like you mentioned a few moments ago, the track resembling more of an ice rink. Wet tires, I don't think are going to be enough. We're going to need rubber bands, oars, paddles, everything just piled into the boat to try and stay afloat, as it is the Stag. Just backing it off, making sure we don't loop it round, as we saw earlier, with the skill issue that seemingly infected the Stag's computer system.
That's, yes, for sure. I mean, probably the Stag is running on Windows 95 at this point, so it's understandable that the system's under a little bit of load, so we'll have to wait and see whether there's a short circuit here or there. But I'm just noticing as well, most of the GR86s haven't pitted all the way down to P6. They are still on their previous unsafety car stint. So one of the drivers, Gosh Dam, has made it up to P2 as well, so that's a great rejoin for position. But I'm also noticing Fabian Ming still showing on the dry compound tire. I'm presuming that's a timing board error at this point. And I'm hearing that the unsafety car, which our safety is not of their concern, as it's written on the side, is going to make it their concern to do a glorious exit once again.
With limited grip, this could be very interesting. Slower speeds perhaps when you're approaching the barriers, but we'll see what we've got lined up as we pile down into the penultimate corner. Just doing some ice dancing there. We're not going to break into it, and we're going to try the reverse entry drift and rip the front and the back, the face and the feet off, effectively, of the unsafety car.
Yes, if you've noticed, we have 2 unsafety cars. It's for that reason. We need one of them to be repairing while the other one stays and waits. As we have Alex Gillen waiting to get on throttle. He does exactly the same as Brendan Hyperstar. Tries to get going before the last turn. Hasn't really worked this time. Ryan was waiting for it. He'd seen it happen the previous time. And so that's going to allow him to get a lot of traction. I tell you what, the front 2 have got away with this. And Brendan Hyperstar, the first on the fresh tyres, is now getting a bit between his teeth. Breska Kyoso up the inside of Solstice. That's made it through turn 1. At least there's off in the background. That's Love 46. And I think, who was that? Lithium Fox involved as well?
Looks like big damage. Aidan Paul still leading the charge, but out of control. That is Ancephalosis in the Mercedes. That looked unstable and eventually does find the gravel, which will slow the car down, but not do any worth for his position. Alex Gillen still leading the way in the Indy cars. Backwards into turn 3 we go. Caught into the wall. I think that's Joshma's plastered up against it. And it is Grand Poobah and the BMW sent packing.
Yeah, so unfortunate. Just, oh, here we go. Off again, another IndyCar. And that, I think, Josh Merrin off. So from the provisional podium position contention all the way down now to challenging with Zella. Zella all the way over the curb. There's no traction out there as the racing continues to get even more tumultuous. Meanwhile, with the GR86s, they're probably not in the best of shape, but let's see if Gosh Damn can challenge for the lead here, as we have Chucky George ahead in that blue car with Gosh Damn in the majority white livery car. Meanwhile, Stormalina up the inside of Stroopwafel as Des TV just struggling again. That Lamborghini has not looked on song all afternoon, especially in the rain. So twitchy.
Aidan Poll's now 6 seconds up the road, by the way. He's absolutely waltzed off into the distance. Back to the Indy cars we ride. And it's the battle into turn number 1. It's Ryan 83 on the inside, trying to hold off the attack from Josh Merrin, who's trying to make up for lost time. Little bit of bodywork thrown up, and now launched up in the air as Josh Merrin tries to vault over Ryan 83, and he's sent spearing into the gravel. Doesn't quite reach the barrier, but Josh Merrin, the last lap and a half, have not been to his liking. Brings a lot of gravel back onto the circuit. And down to 8th, I think Lithium Fox was off the road in the gravel in the background as well. While all this has gone on behind, Alex Gillen, the wily old fox that he is, still leading the way with 8 laps to go. He's going to be dealing with one Brendan Hyperstart very, very shortly.
He's not got his rear gunner, though. Ryan has been effectively removed from the equation. Very unfortunate for Josh Merrin there. As you can see, the gravel on the track as well, not helping traction. Basically what happened is I think Josh lost a bit of the front wing on Ryan L83's car in turn 1. Then in turn 2, just before turn 2, they just got together. I think Josh Merrin had a little bit of understeer still, and so they didn't account for that and just didn't keep turning, and so contact happened, sadly, and that's led to even more damage. Look at the overspeed. The fresh tyres now coming into play, and I think this is writing on the wall for Alex. Look at that apex speed. The visibility's still quite good, I'd say, so there's opportunity for an overtake. It's only when it gets really, really heavy right now, at around about 100 and I'd say 170 kilometers per hour as they brake for turn 1. The switch back, is it going to work? Look at the traction. Brendan Hyperstar all the way around the outside. No, Alex defends, but it's a defense too much. He can't get the car turned in. Brendan Hyperstar, classic switchback, making Alex just look a little bit silly for trying to defend that one so hard.
I don't think Alex Skinner's going to give it up just yet. The sun's shining finally, and it is shining on Hyperstar, who has a big tail wobble, struggling to get the power down once and twice through turn 4. With that tyre advantage, you would expect him to check out there. Gillen just a little bit too late into 2, sliding slightly wide, and that was the door and the only invitation that Brendan Hyperstar needed to go through it. And he now has the lead in his grasp to try and go for 3 in a row in the IndyCar series. Alex Gillen now a second off the back of the 10 car, with Hayden Gullis catching fairly quickly. Smilable battling away with Reska Kyoso. Kyoso, the winner, of course, of the first race in the IndyCar class back in Road America. Survival of the fittest. The only driver that managed to make it work on the fuel strategy. Now up into 6th place at the expense of Smilable.
Yeah, Reska Kyoso's had a really bizarre race, as you said, dropping back previously. It looks like they're going into the gravel trap. Just managed to recover the car, fighting with it the whole way around the corner. They've shown decent pace once again. It's just that consistency that has kept them off of the top positions at the moment. There is still time to fix that, although it's quite a sizable gap, as you can see, about 3 seconds. Another car in the wars has been Smiler Bull. They've just... Oh, that's Zella stopped on track, is it? Yes, Zella. I think Zella's hit the barrier there on the exit of the last corner and has had to tow to pit lane. So hopefully we'll get to see what happens there. So Zella fighting with Ryan, trying to go for an overtake here. So Ryan's got away with it. So this shouldn't be a collision with Ryan, but will Zella drop it on the curb? Yeah, going over the curb, aquaplanes into the barrier. That's a heck of a smash. Beyblade style, sadly, and that is a considerable amount of damage.
Never good news when you're surrounded by bits of what used to be your IndyCar. Azalea, like you say, towed back to the pits, and it will be Hyperstar to continue out in front now. 1.6 ahead of Gillen, 1.8 from Gillen back to Gullis, with Ryan 83 cruising up to the back of the 86 car. The battle for the final spot inside the top 3. This, though, is Josh's corner, who was at one stage leading the GT3 class. I don't think he's going to win it because Aidan Poll is now 16.5 seconds ahead of second place Stormalina. That is a class of 1, everybody, as it's Des is into the pits. or the dry tyres in that Lamborghini. Watch this space with just 6 laps to go. The rain has stopped, but the track is still very, very treacherous as we try and dart through the spray in the GR86s. This is Ryan Lady 3 all over the back of Hayden Gullis, 2 drivers that know each other incredibly well. Ryan just washing out slightly wide in the understeer and the dirty wake of Gullis in front of him as we start what is the 5th last lap with this duo. Gullis a little bit late into turn 1, just needs to try and find his spot, pick his spot to get through the stragglers, get past the GR86 on the outside, and still has 3rd place within his grasp.
Now, Hayden and Ryan are in a voice chat together, so they will be able to relay information or just tease each other, basically, to hopefully get them to make a mistake. As Hayden onto the curb, how did he save that? The curb magically giving them grip, but that's allowed Ryan to get all the way, or just put it on the grass. That was risky as well. I think what we're seeing is huge amounts of understeer at the moment from all of the Indy cars. And is that a bit of damage on the front wing? I think for Ryan, maybe a tiny bit of damage. But yeah, Hayden doing all he can to defend at the moment, and it's looking like a good defensive drive. But I wouldn't put it past Ryan to try and distract him a little bit via the voice chat.
Some games, perhaps, between these two battling over 3rd and 4th. Ryan again just getting a little bit overzealous with the loud pedal and just running into the grass. Late again, under braking into turn 8. Almost taps the back of Gullis, who's doing a good job at the moment to hold firm in 3rd for the time being. More traffic they're going to have to deal with. It's Chesney again, missing the front and the back of his McLaren. That's definitely had quite a sizable chat with the barriers at some point.
Dear.
Gets the wobble as well into the final corner.
Oh, no.
Into the back of Gullis goes Ryan. Front wing gone for Ryan. Rear wing hanging off, being trailed back by Hayden Gullis. Limited downforce for both of them. An opportunity perhaps will present itself to Reska Kyoso as Ryan Lady 3 is through, but he's missing half of his front wing.
Well, the adaptive aerodynamics, I didn't realise they were an IndyCar, but we're getting a preview. Oh, that is so unfortunate. I mean, Chesnoid had no choice. He's got a damaged car. He's got to brake. Arguably, he should have come into the pits there with such a damaged car. But Hayden had nowhere to go, just jams on the brake. Ryan probably was screaming into his microphone at that point. And yeah, that is so unfortunate.
And the outside.
No grip. Yeah, around the outside, Reska Kyoso shouldn't be oh, nearly gets caught up by GR86 though.
That was dicey, wasn't it? I think Hayden Gullis is still there in the background, dragging his rear wing along behind him like a dog walker walks a dog behind them. As slightly wide there is Ryan again, struggling with that reduction in front downforce. It feels like it's only a matter of time for Reska Kyoso to get through as off the road. One of the GR86 is eventually getting out of the way. Surely Ryan can't hold on to this one with the state that car is in. There's Hayden just in the back of shot, being caught very, very quickly as well by Josh Merrin, who's had a few adventures in the wet weather conditions. As that is Josh was on the outside now, being overtaken by the IndyCars. Bit of a bump there as it was Reska Kyoso trying to force their way through.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Joshima's getting into even more contact, not necessarily of his own causing, but it seems like that car is a magnet for IndyCars at the moment. So, yeah, let's have a look. And that is Hayden Gullis getting overtaken in the background. Meanwhile, Reska Kyoso round the outside into turn 1. They can get it stopped. They've got Stroopwafel ahead of them. Hopefully won't get in the way. Stroopwafel does keep to the inside, though. So I think the IndyCars have had to back off there. I mean, how Hayden Gullis is keeping that car on track. Josh Merrin has got past him, but that car must be oversteering, snap oversteering everywhere at the moment.
A really good job, as once again is Aiden Cole. 22 seconds in the lead. Is that Josh's corner spinning it round? Yes, it is. The Ferrari pirouetting through the grass. And on the exit of turn 4, Josh Corner, I should say. I was going to say Josh Merrin, then Josh. There's too many Joshes racing, too confusing. Just looping it round and struggling to get going. That's Ancephalosis in the Mercedes in front. Just carried a bit too much speed in the wheel tracks and in the puddles that were forming at the apex. And that sends the car into the half spin.
Yeah, indeed. And we saw that Storm Molina just briefly got past Ancephalosis, but then Ancephalosis overtook once again. So I think there's been some sort of coming together. As that is Josh Merrin missing a front wing as well? What's going on with that one? I think there's been some sort of incident that's happened here, because Storm Molina was briefly ahead of Ancephalosis, and then Ancephalosis has re-overtaken. So I can only guess that there's been some contact made here, as Storm Molina is not going in a straight line as far as I can tell. I think there's some damage to the rear of that car. And so Josh Merrin really can't really catch anybody ahead. Reska Kyoso probably will be able to storm away with this. As meanwhile, it's a battle between the damaged cars. I mean, How these two are keeping it on track, once again, I have no idea. Look at the confidence that Hayden has. This should be impossible, and yet he's doing the impossible. The typical old school driving around the old school Pacific Grand Prix. Actually, this track was used in '94 and '95 for a Formula One Grand Prix. They had a little bit more downforce than that on the rear wing, I think.
And I believe that was the race where Taki Inui almost got run over by the safety car in 1995 as his footwork, I think it was, burst into flames potentially. It might not have been at this circuit, but I wasn't born, so I'm just trying to use what little memory I still have. That dancing on the finite edge of grip there is Hayden Gullis trying to bring this one home. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. It's Brendan Hyperstar with a 7-second margin over Alex Gidden, who is going to have to do some defensive work on the last lap because Reska Kiosa is taking chunks of time out of the 77. This is Strootwaffle into turn 4, carries too much speed. You'll go skating through the gravel and handing a place over to the GT3s that are going to welcome it. Joshua's the last of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, thank God for a gravel trap there, as I think Hayden Gullis is missing even more of his front wing there as well, so some incident might have happened also. My days, he's got into the battles, hasn't he? Reska Kioso, meanwhile, catching for the moment. That is Alex Gillen ahead of him, and we're on the final lap of the race as well, so it's do or die right now for whichever step you want on the podium. Do you want P2 or do you want P3? Reska Kioso has had the utmost pace at the moment, and Alex Gillen on those aging tyres, maybe even having to do a bit of lift and coast for the fuel, is going to have so much pressure. Around the outside goes Reska Kioso. Surely not. Alex will force them onto the gravel. They both have no grip here. Reska Kioso, though, superior traction right now, and I think has got a little bit of deploy left. Yes, you can see the arrow activating there. Drag race down to hairpin corner. There's Aidan Pole there as well to make it difficult. Alex Gillen sees that. Aidan Pole goes off in sympathy, just getting out of the way. Reska Kioso still to the inside. Can you believe it?
Gillen holds it firmly around the outside. Beautiful racing between the pair of them. They will continue to sink their teeth, knock 10 bells out of each other. Gillen applies the big squeeze on the run up into turn 8. Kioso having none of it to the inside, but gets out of shape. Chips off the front wing of Alex Gillen's car. And the 77, I think, is going to take that one back. They will continue this battle royale into the final couple of corners. Brendan Hyperstar is going to take the victory, and by some distance as well. Can Gillen hold on? There is Hyperstar winning again in the fabled IndyCar class. Where is Gillen being pushed out of the final corner? It's a drag race with a push to pass, and I think Kioso's going to take it. Yes, Kioso will take it. Gillen, I think, is out of fuel over the line and will come home in third. No, lost out to Josh Merrin. So Alex Gillen ran out of fuel. There's Solstice backwards. But that was very, very tetchy for Alex Gillen. Just lost the podium in the end. Just didn't have the fuel left in the pipes.
Oh, dearie me. I thought it could happen. I didn't wish it on Alex, obviously, but unfortunately it has happened. Running out of fuel, literally. It's one of the longest drags to the line that I can remember on a track, very old school. But we've still got battles ongoing on track, as that is Ancephalosis trying to get Stormalina. It's not going to happen today. Joshua's does get across the line as well as Stormalina straight into a GR86. At least they didn't do it during the race. But we also saw Chucky George cross the line in first place for the GR86s as well, with a 7-second gap to Goshdam in P2, with Timo in P3 as well. So very good driving from them. There you can see them doing the victory donuts, that's for sure. Hayden Gullis, I must commend him for getting to the end. As you see, Aidan Pole ever so dominant in the background as well. Is that true? 33 seconds. That's incredible.
What a performance from Aidan Pole. As you can see him drifting and weaving there down the straight into turn 5. Brendan Hyperstar superb as well. Once he got into the lead of the race, did not look back once. And just behind them, Hayden Gullis in 5th, ahead of Lithium Fox, separated by 5 milliseconds. 33 seconds Lithium Fox took out of Gullis in 10 laps after the pit stop. That is superb running from Lithium Fox.
I mean, it does help to have a rear wing, but yes, it has been a stellar drive. I can imagine that Hayden might have a few words to say about his pace. Probably not good ones about the handling of the car. Just want to point out as well, I have been wrong about one thing. Aidan Pole's balance of performance, let's say ballast, has been increased actually for this race to 22 kilograms. So it's not 15, it's 22. That makes his performance even more ridiculous, in my opinion.
Outrageous pace of Aidan Pole. It's disgraceful. Apparently, he's getting 100 kilos next week, so watch out for that one. But it's Brendan Hyperstar that takes it in the Indy class by just over 10 seconds ahead of Kyoso, who was in a drag race with Gillen out of the final corner. But Alex ran out of fuel, and that handed third place to Josh Merrin, with Hayden Gullis and Lithium Fox separated there by 4 milliseconds, just behind Smileable and Love 46, the only others on the lead. That Ryan Lady 3 with some adventures. Solstice there in 10th. Had some strong pace, but the car looked lively at best coming in to replace Punju.
In the GT3 class, it's Aidan Pole that takes the victory, 33 seconds in 10 laps. Storm Molina getting pushed across the line by Encephalosis. He does get a podium, though, in P3, with Joshima's P4 just missing out. He had them in their sights after all of that contact, all of those problems. That's a great race by Joshima's. He'll be buoyed by that one for sure. Josh's corner in P5. Again, the argy-bargy at the start is a what if and what could have happened in this race, with Stroopwaffle P6. Considerable time down, getting involved in a bit of contact. Chesnoid with that damage, P7, a lap down in the end. And then it's Des TV, as we have loads of collisions with Solstice in the background. That was a Spinala moment. But it's Des TV, P8, Grand Poubert P9, classified but not making the end of the race.
And the GR86s, it is Chuki George that takes it by 7 seconds ahead of Gosh Down and Timo, rounding out your top three. Big distance back to Reese, head of Asoy, Fabian Mink, Diamgala lap down, and Stig 24 laps down. Not a particularly good performance there from Stig, but some say that they were found arrested in California for some reason recently. So answer on a postcard about that one.
Yeah, indeed. I think just taking a vacation at that point, going for testing for some mysterious new series that might be on the horizon, let's say, or just trying to find a different job and career. Yes, that might be it too. It looks like we're about to get an interview, Tom.
It is, and once again, different week, same result. Aidan Pole once again leading the way. And this one, you had even more of a ballast, but you had even more of a margin in the end. 33 seconds, and in the wet weather conditions in particular, you looked so strong.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky with the having the Porsche. This was kind of my plan. You know, I started in the Corvette. I really wanted the Porsche. Got fortunate enough to be traded it, albeit with the ballast. And the Porsche in the wet is just untouchable. So once the rain came in, it was easier than it should have been to drive that car as opposed to other cars.
So with the ballast being increased now to 22 kilograms, what do you think of the idea of maybe putting a second seat in the car and taking a passenger around with about extra 60 kilos? Do you think you could still win the race? In fact, if we remove your rear wing, do you think you could still win the race?
I think with a passenger, maybe. Rear wing, not a shot. I was spinning already in that race. I didn't realize the ballast was increased. I was not told that, or maybe I was and I didn't see it, but that makes sense. I was really losing out on some straights.
Slightly made you slower and didn't even notice at points. But how was it for you in that transitional period? Because it looked like it took quite a while for the track to go from the dry tyres being better to the wet compound being the one that you wanted to be on. It did look quite sketchy for a lot of people.
So it was very interesting. It was a really cool transfer. At first, it was, I think it's turn 4 or 5, the run onto the straight that got wet. The end of that straight got wet, and you had to be really careful there, understeered on dry tires. When I did make the decision to pit, it felt like the perfect time, but I put on, well, actually, I had a race engineer that race who was helping me, and he tried to put wet tires on my car and accidentally put them onto someone else's. So I came out on dries, spun, and had to pit again for wets. And once the wets came in, it felt very comfortable. But the whole transition period in, and even at the end, once it started to dry up, is really tricky to, you have to kind of remember where the grip is and isn't from the last lap, and whether it's getting grippier or less grippy, and account for that the next lap going around, and kind of apply it to those situations where you can find that outside tire hook up through a corner. So it was really fun conditions.
So I'll take the opportunity to ask you the question then, perhaps, of if you had to give advice to people on how to drive in wet weather conditions, which is where you gained the most of your time today, what would that one tip be?
I am not the best wet weather driver, but what has helped me is I always put my brake bias pretty far back. I set it to -7 because I really want rotation when there is grip from the braking. So And the way you find that grip is kind of like diving through the corner. Try and find the dry spot on the outside. You don't need your inside tires to be there. You can see it and you can feel it in the wheel that there's not a puddle there. Get your outside, say I'm making a right turn, left tires onto the dry and ride it around and try and keep those tires loaded up. And then once you get back into the wet, you can kind of blip throttle to get the rear end to kick around, at least in the Porsche you can. So you can kind of drift it around the rest of the corner once you get that initial grip to start the turning, because really all you need to do in the wet is get the car to begin to turn, and then you just kind of modulate throttle and the car will continue to, slide on the wet. So it's really about finding the grip on the outside tires to get the car turned initially. And that's the number one thing that I try and focus on.
From the present, let's talk about the future. 7 days' time heading back stateside. It's Daytona Road on the calendar. What are the expectations going into that one?
They're pretty high. Daytona, if you didn't see it on iRacing's official listing during the Daytona 24 and all that, the Porsche was the car to be in. For whatever reason, it takes the bus stop so much easier than every other car. It feels like, you're driving it almost as if the curbs aren't even there. Every other car was a gamble. I was driving it in the Corvette about a month ago, and it was like a 50-50 chance whether or not you just bottom out and get spun or it bounces in a weird way. The Porsche never had that issue, so I expect that it's going to be pretty unfair almost, I want to say, because the Porsche does feel just like a better car at Daytona.
Well, message to our producer, Gareth. Aidan Paul has volunteered live on air for a 200 kilogram bias in there.
Can you do that?
I'm getting a message from Gareth saying he's put in GT4 category to race with the GT3. So that seems fair to me.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you, Aidan, for jumping in with us. Pleasure as always to have a chat, and congratulations on what is yet another victory for yourself and an excellent performance.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanking you. Well, an excellent performance from Aidan Paul, and we'll go from one repeat winner to another, because once again returning to the commentary box for a chat, it is Brendan Hyperstar, again victorious in the Indy cars. That looked very serene from the outside. Was it as calm and as orderly as it looked from the outside for yourself?
Most of the race, because after the safety car anyway, whereas I spent most of the time in the lead, but then I understood the pain everyone else was having with the second safety car, and I was behind Alex and Ryan. I was just like, I did not know where to go, right? You only have that tiny little, I don't even know how big it is. That rain light is tiny. At least it's bright. But at that point, when you have two cars ahead of you, both taking different lines, right, into the corner, you can't see your traditional braking mark. And at one point, on that restart, when I was fighting with Josh, I braked inside way too early, even for like a wet line. I thought he's got me, but I guess fortunate for me, he went off the track, and it was a shame for him because he was fast at the end, man. I was looking at the times, he was like 2-3 seconds quicker, so he was for sure faster in those more mixed conditions. I maybe had a slight edge in full wet, and he was quicker in dry, but with the race in the wet, we were able to get it done barely. We could have been in an accident, so it was good overall.
I think Josh had some damage at the end as well. I distinctly remember him missing half of his front wing. But just to recall that last unsafety car restart, how surprised were you that Ryan and Alex Gooden stayed out? And did you factor them into the proceedings at any point, really?
Yeah, I noticed when I pit under for that safety car, I came out of the pits and I saw they're on the same stint length as I had been when I pit. So I knew I was not going to be good if I had stayed out. And so I was concerned I was actually going to lose a lot of track position, because I knew the people behind me were going to have to be doing a save. And all those people came in with me. So when I came out third, I was surprised. And I don't actually know if Alex, I don't think Alex pit again. So it was obviously possible, but I think it was obviously the right call for us to pit in that situation, get fresh, wet tires, because then I had a feeling it might dry out, and at least, you at least have some tread in your wets when the track was drying up. So we were still pretty fast enough at the end to pull it off.
The transition from dry tyres to wet tyres looked really challenging, especially in the Indy cars. There was a lot of divergence going on. Some people went a bit too early. Some people, like Zayla, for example, stayed out very, very long on those slick tyres. For you, how difficult was it, or how easy was it in contrast to manage that?
It was a guessing game because I was fortunate in some way. I had it off at the very beginning. I just locked it up and I went straight into the hairpin. I went all the way to the back, and I wasn't driving as hard as I normally would, so I was backing up corners a little bit, taking advantage of draft, and working through traffic naturally saves you some fuel because you're going a little bit slower. So I was fortunate that by the time I had to pit, I had a better idea of what I could do, and I realized basically at that situation I was able to afford going on to the wets. And had I had to pit 3-4 laps earlier, I would have had to pit again. It also didn't matter because we had the safety car, but it's a really tough call. It's a little bit easier for GT3s because they have all the electronics. We have no traction control, we have no ABS, so it's just pure driving for us. And if you're good enough, you can make drives work in the lightly wet conditions.
So on that note of the difference of classes, there was a lot of predictions pre-race that it was going to be one of the most difficult tracks to get past the other classes. Was that the case, and did that really factor into the problems with the rain mid-race as well?
I thought it was going to be really bad, just because one, this track is small, and a completely different topic. Still baffles my mind that there's 2 rounds of the Formula 1 World Championship here. It's such a tiny track, so passing alone was pretty difficult then and now. And yeah, usually with the slower cars, we have the same mechanical grip in the corners, but they're mostly hairpins, so I mean you can power out of the corners a lot better than GT3. So it was almost in a way better than Fuji, because the last sector Fuji last week or 2 weeks ago was pretty bad. You had to wait, but if you know how to place your car right with the IndyCar, you could get through the traffic pretty well. So I was pleasantly surprised it was not as hard as I thought it would be.
And if we look ahead to next week, going back over to the States, it's Daytona Road. How are you feeling about that one?
I've never driven an IndyCar on the Daytona Road layout. The bus stop, I'm not calling it the La Chicane. I'm sorry. It's still the bus stop to me. Now with those curbs, you have to be perfect with the IndyCar, because I mean, anytime you bounce your tires in the IndyCar, you're gonna continue bouncing like a basketball most of the time. So I think we're gonna see a lot of incidents with the IndyCar there, and you're just gonna have to be careful through there. But you can't be too careful because again, the best passing spots into one if you can get the best bus stop exit. So it's definitely gonna be a challenge, but I'm personally looking forward to it. It's gonna be interesting, depending on if we use a low downforce setup. That's gonna be a lot of fun for sure.
It's certainly looking like then for your rivals in the championship that they may have a few problems in the future. Then you feeling confident on that front?
I'm anything can happen. Of course it's the team event, and Chestnut's doing a great job bringing in points for us too, and we'll just have to kind of see how it goes. I think together we can control our destiny if I'm able to keep on racking up wins. I was thinking if you can almost win out, which I do not expect, because I had to fight my way to the lead again today. It may be possible if I can win a majority of the races going forward. Whatever may happen in GT3, we may have it, but still a long way to go. This series goes into May, doesn't it? So a lot of things can happen in between, but I think we control our own destiny for this.
Only halfway through, and like I said, still an awful long way to go. Thank you very much for chatting to us once again, Brendan, and congratulations once again on a very impressive victory.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Now, before we head off, we're going to speak to somebody that John's very excited to have a chat with. It's Ryan Lady 3 jumping back in. We spoke to you pre-race, Ryan. We're going to have a chat post-race as well. What happened at the end there?
I ran out of fuel.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. So me and Hayden had a good fuel strat, and unfortunately I thought I could have a chance of a victory before I got the damage with Ches and Hayden with the front wing. Then I just left it in Mat 1 and just tried to catch up if I can. But it is what it is. I had a laugh. I had a laugh tonight. I had limited time to set everything up anyway, so I wasn't expecting anything great. So good fun though, I have to say. Really chaotic race, that one, and that's the whole point of Great Series, is to have carnage, and in a good sense, it was a good race, apart from running out of fuel at the end.
Now, I'll start off with an apology because I jinxed Ryan on his own live stream yesterday, saying that if it wasn't going to be a technical issue, it would be a skill issue. I won't go as far as saying that, but the incident that we had with Hayden, it was unfortunate. There was Chesnoid in front. Could you describe what happened there?
I think Ches went a bit wide and on the gravel, so he had to check. Hayden obviously had to react, and I think he had a bit of damage. And obviously with the spray, it was difficult to get the braking marks. I think I may have aquaplaned a bit and locked the tyre and went into the back of Hayden. And to be fair to Hayden, I've got to give him props. With a broken rear wing and a broken front wing, I can't remember where he finished in the end, but he did a stellar job to get that car to the end. So it's a shout there, but it is what it is. It's the wet. I've not really experienced the rain that intense since the F4s at Watkins, I think it was, last season. So it is what it is. I wasn't like, angry, frustrated. It was just a race, and I didn't mind it. It is what it is. I wasn't expecting anything out of it today, so. But those things happen.
That's what it's all about, though. Like you say, at the end of the day, having fun, creating some good content, and enjoying the carnage that ensues. And like you said, you got involved in your fair share of bumps and scrapes. There's some really nice scraps out there as well. Early on, you obviously knew that the rain was going to be coming, I imagine, from the radar. What's that like when you're trying to prep, you're trying to manage the fuel strategies, trying to look after the tyres as well, because we spoke earlier how you are really going to be working them and the temperatures are going to be skyrocketing. How was that management period early on for you?
It was. Unfortunately, I got caught up in an incident. I think it was a GR86 at turn 2 reversed onto the track, and just lost a bit of suspension damage, so went onto the alternates, and it kind of worked out nicely for me because whilst the others had to pit under the safety, when the unsafety car came out, I didn't need to take fuel at all because I had about a lap or 2 laps on the alternates. So I gained 10 seconds on Josh and gained about 4 places from people. So it worked out actually in a good way that the G86, whoever that was, I'll send my invoice to you at the end of this. And then when the rain came, it was, you just got to work it. I did gamble staying out on the wets that I did for the final unsafety car with Alex. And obviously the fuel strat as well. Managed to stay in like mode 7 for most of the stint in the wet, just to reduce the rear degradation on the tyre, which did help. Kind of made the wrong decision going to a higher engine map at the end to try and attack Alex at the restart, and just went a bit too wide and lost basically the chance to win the race. So yeah, you've got all that to think about. Tyres, obviously, say wish we had a bit more dry running. It would have been good to see how good the alternates were, because only, as I say, about 2-3 laps, but the primaries were fine. It was just unfortunate with the incident of the GR86.
Well, a very eventful outing, I think the best way to put it, and good fun as well. Thank you for chatting with us, Ryan, and we wish you best of luck for next week.
Thank you very much, and big props to you for the broadcast as well, as always.
Thank you very, very much. Well, I'm delighted to say that I've heard from Gareth Allen that we have some standings to deliver, and by Jove, is it close at the top. Resicioso and Ancephalosis taking over at the sharp end after a stinker for Hayden Gullis and Swelly Almeida's absent. These Brendan Hyperstar and Chesnoid Gaming now just 3 points in the arrears. Polnoodle.sim up to third, just slowly climbing with the consistency of Aiden Pole. Supernoodle Bagel wasn't here this week, but his replacement, who I'm just going to try and get up so I can remember who it was that jumped in. It was Solstice, was it? No, it was Lithium Fox, who did a decent job as well, coming through in 6th eventually for the IndyCar class. But it's still so tight. And like we said before the race even started, things can change so quickly.
Yeah, the people that have lost out is Sparks and Scotty Designs, P7 now. So the gap increases, and they were in the fight. Now they've got to get back into it. So it's all about consistency, as we've said. And this race has really thrown a spanner in the works. So yeah, you've got to stay tuned for the next race. Really, that's the crux of it, isn't it? Because now we go to the more open tracks, the more high-speed tracks, at least on average anyway. And that changes the game.
an American swing for the next 4 weeks of action. Daytona Road next week, then Sebring. There's actually a break in between those, so I've lied to you. I'm sorry for that one. Talladega Oval, and then the Miami Autodrome making its first appearance in the Creator Series iRacing scene. Super special events staying stateside with Long Beach. The endurance layout, that should be said. And then we finish with Monza Historic with chicanes. I was nearly going to say Monza chicanes with historic, which is definitely not the way to put it. That takes us into the end of April. Like I said so many times, the championship battle heating up, the dynamics at play really interesting. And we're going to some circuits where I think it could be fascinating to see how the multi-class racing works.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the GR86s, especially at Monza, might be something to watch as well. So it's definitely going to be one of those things where I think the overtakes are going to be a little bit more clean than we've seen today, just because they've got more space to do it. So for the drivers that may have been a bit frustrated that they haven't had the luck or indeed haven't been able to use their pace, they're going to want to demonstrate that at the next couple of tracks. And so they're going to be ones to watch. For Ryan, didn't have the chance to ask him a second question, but I'm sure now that the technical issues are out of the way, he might be a really, really good horse to bet on at the end of the race, or the end of the races, let's say.
Feels such a long way to go as well. So things can change in a flash, as we've seen so many times. But thank you, everybody, for joining us on this evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are watching in the world. 5 races in the history books now. 5 to go in Season 3 of the iRacing Creator Series Championship. Before we head out, John, pleasure as always to share the comms box with yourself. Where can people find you on the old social medias to see what you are up to?
Well, you could find me, for example, last night on Twitch, for example, is amusing. Everything is amusing. Where I was spinning out every single corner on snow in a rally car. Classic for me.
Absolutely perfect. Make sure you check John out. And if you're interested in what I'm doing, wilco.coms on Instagram and TikTok. But thank you so much for joining us for this action and the race that is taking place at Okayama. We head back over from Asia to North America, and we'll dig our trenches in there because we're going to be there for a while, starting off with Daytona Road and a 4-race run, plus the super special event in a few weeks' time as well. Be very, very excited. Well, thank you ever so much for watching, and we will see you in 7 days' time. From myself and John, it is a very, very good goodbye.